It's 9 o'clock. These are your top stories. Security is tight around polling stations across the country as South Africans cast their votes. Home Affairs Minister has appealed to people who've not collected their IDs to use extended office hours to collect their documents so that they can vote today. And the EFF in Mpumalanga has opened a case at the Ermelo police station after an IEC official allegedly tampered with a ballot box. Very good morning to you, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on this very, very special day. It's Elections Day 2019, the 8th of May. Well, SA decides finally. We've been building up to this day. Remember, we had special votes on Monday and Tuesday, and now majority of South Africans are heading to the polls. We have about 26.7 million registered voters. Will they turn out? We will see very, very soon. South Africans are exercising their right to vote right now. Polls opened at 7 a.m. and will close at 9 p.m. If you are in the line at 9 p.m., remember, you will be able to vote. Well, we've got our reporters fanned out across the country, bringing you all the angles and all the latest updates with regards to elections 2019. My colleague Desiree Chauke is based at the NROC, the National Results Operations Center. There you go. Desiree, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning, Blaine, and a good morning to all our viewers throughout the country. And some of those angles you're talking about, around 12 noon today, the IEC will be giving a media briefing on the floor that you can see on the screen. They will be giving a media briefing where they will be giving us just an early indication of what happened on voting day. Are you ready? Are you already out? Are you still preparing yourself to go out and as you go through these preparations? Remember some of the basic things, such as your behavior at the polling station. You're expected not to obstruct the officials and also not interact necessarily with party agents. But something here about what to expect when you get to the voting station. You will give your ID to a smart card to officials on duty. Your ID will be scanned, your name on the voters roll, and also voting province. If you're voting in your province you're registered in, you will get 2 ballots. An IEC official will stamp your ballot on the back. That has been flagged as an important one. You must check if it's stamped at the back, and an IEC official will ink your left thumbnail with an indelible ink, and off you go. We're crossing to some of our other colleagues who are out there. Am I going through to Zoe now? All right, let's go through to Mlungisi in Nkandla. Mlungisi, what's happening where you are? Mlungisi, are you ready for us?
Former President Jacob Zuma. Yes, I'm ready.
All right, Mlungisi is in Nkandla, and I think he's following former President Jacob Zuma. Can you give us the latest there, Mlungisi?
Okay, like you mentioned earlier on, Desiree, that I am in Nkandla, the home of the former President Jacob Zuma. Where I am currently, I am at Ntolwane Primary School, where the former president will be casting his vote today. Now, let me just give you a brief historical overview about this place. It has a lot of young people, and it also has a lot of older people. Now, yesterday, we had an opportunity to interact to some of the young people in the area. Basically what they said there is an urban migration in this area, as they feel that they do not have enough job opportunities, and as a result they are now making their way into the city area. One of the key aspects, or one of their key complaints, was that there are not enough jobs in the area, and this place is not as advanced as other urban areas in the city. Now, you also recall when former President Jacob Zuma came into power, he did ensure that the area of Nkandla will be developed and that young people will be given opportunities. But like I mentioned earlier on, that at around 10 o'clock, the former president will be making his way over here at Ntolwane Primary School, where he'll be casting his vote. Currently, it's relatively quiet, but we've just seen a lot of elderly people making their way to also cast their votes. We had an opportunity to speak to some of the IEC officials and ask them about the voting demographics of this area. Basically, what surprisingly enough, in this rural community are actually coming out in their numbers and actually voting, which is very rare for the youth who are actually in the rural community. And also, this area is an area which is vastly rural. It is an area that is currently run by the IFP currently. And you also understand that historically, according to history, this is the place of Inkosi Skananda. Now, if you know history, you recall that Inkosi Skananda is a person who was said to have defeated some of the colonial imperialists in the very, very olden days. And as a result of that, he then made his way to Nkandla forest, where he hid for the rest of his life, because after he defeated some of the imperialists, he was then sought after and he was wanted. But anyway, enough about that. Let me also pose a few questions to a local leader and ask him about the nitty-gritties of today's program. Thank you very much for your cards. Iskatsako Ngubane. We understand that young people have also been coming out here in their numbers. As a community leader, have you been able to achieve your objective of getting them to vote?
Yes, rather, please call me Bengu instead of Ngubane. Yes, thank you very much for your time. People have been coming in here, as you can see that they are currently coming, and we are still expecting more people to come here. As you might know that the former president is still going to come and make his mark on the ballot today. Other people are used to wait for him to come, so that they are going to do it with him, so that they are going to show the support they have with him. And the young people, as we have asked, young people are doing their mark and they are coming in numbers. And it is as seen as if they are some of them are voting for the first time, which makes us proud that people are going to make their mark and put the mark on the rebuilding of the country, as we want to build the country.
Bengu, we understand that Nkandla is a relatively rural community. Have you been able to see developments in the last 25 years of our democracy?
A lot of development we have seen. We have seen a lot of development here. We've got electricity, we've got water, we've got a tarred road, which has not been the case after that time or before 1994. There were no schools. We know that even here you can see that we are in the school where it is called a North School, which is all post 1994. We see a lot of development. All as you can see, all people are coming here because they know that Jacob Zuma came into power to bring them impatiently, and they want to see him being the leader. And as you might see and or hear, some of them, they are coming in here saying, yeah, we are here for Zuma, but knowing that ANC has been there, or the current government is assisting people in terms of development, we can see that we can boldly say that development is in.
Ngubane, there's been a far outcry, in particular amongst young people. They're saying that they do not see institutions of higher learning in the area, and as a result of that, they are now migrating into urban areas. Is that the case?
It has been the case, but now in Nkandla, we have got our first TVET college, which has been built in, if I'm not mistaken, it's just 3 years ago, and it is currently registering people as I'm talking to you now. We've got it for the first time in Nkandla, knowing that there is a college, because we used to hear people telling us that, hey, our children are now finishing matrics and they are going to go to other areas like Durban and Mpangeni, where we will not be able to look after them. But now they are coming to Nkandla to further their studies. It is the nearest place that we can say.
Thank you very much. That is Bengu, a community leader over here. Now, I mentioned earlier on that he's been rallying old people and young people to come out today in their numbers to cast their votes, as it is their democratic rights. Now, I mentioned earlier on, Desiree, that the former President Jacob Zuma, who does not live far from where we are currently, is going to be making his way over here at around 10 o'clock. He'll then make his way into the voting hall. This is actually a school in Nkandla. He is actually based about 3 minutes away. It's a 3 minutes away drive. But in the morning when we got there, we actually saw his wife, Nkandla, who was over here in very jovial spirits. She also voted as well. And of course, after the president's votes, he'll then be able to talk to members of the media. And basically, you know, Jacob Zuma, former President Jacob Zuma, rather, is a very, very jovial person. He will not tell us who he has voted for, but he will then say to us that we know already who he has voted for, Desiree.
Well, Mtungwa, I suppose that's a breaking story on its own that Umantuli is in Nkandla. Thank you so much for that crossing. We're now going to go to Soweto, where the incumbent, the person who's holding the keys at the moment, hopefully, I don't know, giving them over or keeping them. Mzwai Mbeche is in Shawelo, where the president is expected to be voting this morning. Mzwai, give us a sense of what's happening where you are.
A very good morning to you, Desiree. Indeed, you are correct. The president will be making his way here at around 11 o'clock. Remember, this is a place really where he grew up. He may not necessarily be living here right now, but he hails from this place. So the voting station he'll be using is Hitekane Primary School. So we saw earlier today the queues were a bit longer, but they've since shrunk, and I think people are coming in drips and drabs, and I guess it's because it's a bit chilly here at Desiree, but of course those that are here do tell us that they are very excited and they are looking forward to a very successful elections, and of course knowing that their son from this place is the #1 citizen of the country actually gives them even more excitement. So people are really excited, and I think they are looking forward to casting their ballot. After this, Desiree, we understand that the president, of course, he's the head of state. He obviously will be making a statement encouraging other people to vote and making sure that they exercise their democratic right. But also, he will probably visit 1 or 2 polling stations to see for himself if everything is running smoothly. So as for now, we are waiting until 11 o'clock when he will be making his way here.
Thank you so much. Mzwandile Mbeche, our reporter there coming, our senior reporter coming to us from Shawelo in Soweto, where the state president is expected to cast his vote this morning. We're here in the studio with Professor Tiniko Maluleke just to get a sense of how the morning unfolds. A very warm welcome to you, Prof, and thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you very much. What an exciting day for this country.
How so?
Well, we're 25 years old to begin with, and that's a significant number. We've got 48 political parties that are entering the contest, another significant number. We've got 27 million people who have signed up to vote.
Yeah.
That's also very significant. The unknown number is the turnout number. That's the number that is cooking at the moment.
That's what we're chasing.
Yes, that's what we're chasing. So, I mean, I think we have an exciting day ahead of us.
Is it good for democracy that the numbers of the political parties on the ballot paper have increased?
I don't think it's a bad thing for democracy. It depends what the voters do with it. You know, my sense is that the voters are going to either send a message that says you are too many, or one that says this is fine. If they say you are too many, they are going to eliminate a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
If they think this is fine, they are going to introduce a few more unfamiliar faces into the legislatures and the National Assembly. So, and that can't be bad.
I would think it's a good thing.
A little bit more diversity in terms of political party representation in the legislatures, in Parliament.
Necessary.
It's a very good thing. We saw it. We saw it with the arrival of the EFF in Parliament. So it's not a bad thing, but it also changes the tone and nature of Parliament. And this is important.
To indicate that the country is progressing.
Precisely. The kind of debates, the kind of issues that are raised, more women, for example, more young people, for example, that would be interesting. If the electorate can send a little bit more diverse group of people into those benches.
The professor will be staying with us for this particular segment of the SABC election broadcast. But for now, we're going to Ulundi. Simpiwe Makanya is standing by for us. Simpiwe, kwenzakalani eLundi?
Good morning to the viewers at home. Well, certainly, Desiree, we are coming to you live from Emahlabathini in Ulundi. When we arrived earlier on this morning, we saw quite a few community members making their way into this voting station. The anticipation is that over 700 people from this community will be coming here throughout the day to cast their vote in. I'm not going to waste time. I'm just going to solicit the views of ordinary people who are here today to cast their vote. Ma usho ukuthini ukuba la kwakho namhlanje? Ngiyaqonda ukuthi uvuke ekseni uthi uzovota. Lokho kusho ukuthini kuwena?
Lokho kusho inkululeko ekade ngayilindele.
Yeah. Okay. Iziphi inguquko ofuna ukuyibona zenzeka ucabanga ukuthi ivoti lakho lizokwazi ukuthi lizenze?
Ngicabanga ukuthi umnotho awubuyele kubantu abanikazi bawo ngoba ithina abanikazi bomnotho.
Okay. Masibonga kakhulu isikhathi sakho. Well, Desiree, she's saying that this day is very important to her because it means the freedom. It means freedom for her because she's saying this day is very crucial in terms of her exercising her constitutional right. Nawa sikwamukele indabeni sibuze nje kafishana ukuthi lolu suku lwanamhlanje njengoba usuvotile ucabanga ukuthi iziphi izinto ezizoguquka impilo yakho ebengcono noma yomphakathi ebengcono?
Angithokoze kakhulu izinguquko izoba khona kakhulu ngoba bevele zikhona kusukela ngo94 sivotile siyayibona izinto ziyenzeka namanje siyaqhubeka sinakho konke sinogesi sinamanzi intuthuko siyayibona nje kakhulu la endaweni yasekudubekeni siyacabanga ukuthi ivoti lethu lizowenza kakhulu umehluko qhubeke singenakho sikuthole ngoba nezindlu sinazo sayicosha sinayo nje intuthuko siyayibona siyayikhomba izinto la endaweni yasekudubekeni.
Okay, masibonga isikhathi sakho.
Ngithokoza kakhulu msaka.
Well, she's a happy voter there, Desiree. She's saying that she's happy because the development that is currently taking place here in this community is quite evident, and she hopes that by her exercising her constitutional right, this will actually continue and be rolled out in other various communities which are surrounding this area. Later on, Desiree, we are expecting the leader of the IFP, Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, to come here at around 10:30. That's when he will be casting his vote as well. It's back to you in Johannesburg.
Prof, when you're traveling internationally, one of the things that people say is they love South Africa for the beautiful weather. And seemingly, as we cross throughout the country, it seems like the weather has come to the party.
It has. It's a beautiful... We have one of the best average weathers in the world. Of course, it differs a little bit from place to place.
Yeah. Average is okay today.
The average is perfect today. We couldn't have ordered a better weather conditions for ourselves and for a day such as this. So my hope is that South Africans will get out and vote because turnout is the most important thing in the South African voting system.
To make the election credible.
Not only that, but because, you know, turnout is the number by which everything is divided.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So in order to get the percentages, everything is divided against the turnout.
Against the turnout.
So even if 10 people turn out, we will divide.
The winner is derived from that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the more people, the more diversity, the more alive our democracy is, the more expensive a seat in parliament is, the more people turn out. And that can only be good for democracy.
The other thing that's seemingly good is the Vuwani story, but let's leave that to Rutendo Bobodi to tell us. Rutendo, a very good morning to you. Apparently there have been positive developments in Vuwani.
Yes, 44 polling stations set up in Vuwani, and where we are now, it's called Chiburana. This is where the sword was sharpened. It was war zone during the volatile period back 3 years back, around 2016. In this particular polling station, 1,400 people have registered to vote, and no one, although people are divided, but no one is physically preventing anyone from coming in here and vote. Although a few minutes ago I saw a group of boys trying to discourage people to come in and vote, and a police officer that is deployed to man this particular station had to deal with them. He had to interfere not in a subtle manner, but in a very robust manner, and they had to retreat. But let me just talk to some of the young people here who have just cast their vote. Let's talk to this beautiful young lady. Karabutazina lawo upfinyinone ovota ukufana uvota.
Nṋe ndi fine tshandama katutshelo ndikho vota ndikho ḓipfa zwavhuḓi nga maanḓa ndo vota ngori ndi lo thoma ndi tshi khou vota.
Hopfi ova na mafhungo uri hu songo votiwa hafhanoni kana vha boycott vote ene mara u vota so u ḓipfani.
Mathomoni hu tshi khou thoma zwo boycott uri ri songo vota nṋe nda sa khou ḓipfa zwavhuḓi ngori zwa si khou katela na ngori khou ṅwala milingo mara zwithu zwo swika he zwa dzudzanyea vha tendela upfhi vhathu vha ḓe vha ri votise na zwino nṋe ndi khou pfa ndo takala nga maanḓa ndo kona u ḓo vota matshelo a ḓuvha ḽa ṋamusi.
Okay, well, she's saying she's young. This is her first election, and she was relishing an opportunity to cast her vote. And she also said that even though there was a call to boycott elections, she was not happy with that, and she's happy today that she just cast her vote. Let me also invite another gentleman here.
Nṋe ndi khou ḓipfa ndo takala nga maanḓa nṋe ndi ne Philip Mbedzi vho khosi ndo takala nga maanḓa ngauri zwe zwa zwi khou itea zwa khou mbaisa muhumbulo. Why? Because ndo vha ndo ya nda registera ndo to ḓipfa maanḓa nda siya zwine nda khou zwi ita so ende he nda ndo registera hone nda ndo registera Gauteng Brakpan kha Ekurhuleni so nda tshi khou ḓivha na problem muthambe ndi nga ṱanganisa zwithu Vuwani ngauri hu na dzi strike hu na mini na mini zwa mara nda ḓivhudza uri no kha ndi vuwe ndiyo vha vhudzisa havhala vhathu ngari vha khou shuma nga vhathu so ndo wana service ya fhano i yavhuḓi na zwe zwa itea vhukati ya vhege zwi tshi khou tou sumbedza uri zwo dovha zwa mpha maanḓa u bva nga musumbuluwo ndi tshi vhona force i khou parade hafhaḽa zwa nsumbedza uri ngoho Vuwani i na safe khulwane so namusi ndo vota hafha ndi khou pfa ndo takala nga maanḓa ḓuvha ḽa ṋamusi ndi ḓo eḓela kope ngari pfanelo dzanga ndo dzi imela. Ndo livhuwa.
Yeah, so basically saying that he was looking forward to cast his vote, but he was a little bit afraid. He had a fear of victimization, but seeing a lot of police here who are deployed here, it gave him some sort of a freedom, and he cast his his vote freely.
Rutendo Bobodi will be going back to him as we go along this morning, but now to quite a significant venue in the country in terms of the history of the country, and voting is taking place there today, the Kgosi Mampuru prison. Patricia Fesache is standing by there. Very good morning, Patricia. What's happening where you are?
Well, good morning, Desiree, and to our viewers. As you would know, that it is also part of the country's constitution for inmates to also, of course, exercise their constitutional right to vote. And here at the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Services Facility in the heart of the capital city, Pretoria, that's exactly what is happening. We expect about over 2,400 of them to cast their vote here at the correctional facility today. And of course, Gauteng, it seems, has the largest number countrywide. So I'm joined by a Minister of Correctional Services, and that is Advocate Michael Masuta. Minister, you know, every time when we have elections, you would hear South Africans complain, and some of them, you know, expressing confusion as to why inmates are given the right to vote. Maybe we should just remind them why exactly.
Yes. Of course, when you are sentenced and incarcerated, you lose some of your constitutional rights, freedom of movement, etc., because you are confined under incarceration. But you don't lose all your rights. The Constitution still guarantees you certain rights, and the right to vote is one of them, because you must participate as long as you are South African in determining the
destiny of your own country in terms of who should govern you. And On a day such as this, where they're obviously gearing up, joining the rest of the country to make that crucial decision, what are some of the rules and regulations, the processes that are perhaps put in place from correctional services side to make sure that the process runs smoothly?
Well, first of all, political parties were not allowed to campaign, but over the last 10 months, in collaboration with the IEC as well as Home Affairs, the various challenges that are particularly confronted by potential voters who are inmates were dealt with, such as ensuring that inmates who do not have IDs get to get IDs, and those that have lost their IDs get a replacement or at least temporary IDs to enable them to participate firstly in the voter registration before the voters roll closed, and so that today they are able to participate in voting.
Just lastly, before we speak to the inmates, have you voted? If you're not, just take us through where perhaps you will be casting your vote if you have not voted yet.
Yeah. Now, I started here in Pretoria just to satisfy myself that it's all systems go at one of our biggest correctional centers here where we are. From here, I will be going to my own parliamentary constituency office in Rosebank because my constituency as a public representative starts from Houghton to Sandton, and my voting station is in Orchards in Norwood, where my family home is. So I will at 11 o'clock be going to cast my vote then, and then go back to do duty for my political party as well at the voting station.
All right, thank you so much. Their Correctional Services Minister Advocate Michael Masuta. Now, they may be removed from the rest of society, but as I said, they still do enjoy their constitutional right to participate in the country's elections. So let's speak to the inmates who will be voting just a short while from now. If you can just introduce yourself, sir, and tell us why it is so important for you to also participate in the country's 6th national elections.
Hi, my name is Itumele Mokhorosi. I'm serving life sentence here at Khotsimampuru. I think it's important for us to vote because of it's our constitutional right. Firstly, we are South Africans. Even though we are incarcerated, this is one right that we still have amongst the limited rights that we still have.
You're serving a life sentence. If I may, what was your crime?
Murder and robbery.
Now,
of firearm, illegal firearm and theft.
How do you feel as an inmate who will be serving such a long time in prison? How does that, maybe perhaps your vote, how does that influence the conditions that you have to live under in prison?
My vote makes sure that some of my rights that I still have as an offender are still observed. The right to be fed, the right for medical aid, and so forth.
All right.
So that's why I'm voting.
All right, thank you so much. And you, sir, if you can just introduce yourself and also tell us why it is important for you to participate in the elections.
Mina ngumonwabisi Enoch Mseleni. Kubaluleke kakhulu ukuthi ngivote njengomhlali wase South Africa. Ngokuthi ivote lami lizongisiza ukuthi nami ngibe nayo isay. Kukho okumele ngikusho ukuthi ugovernment ngizobe ngimkhethile, okuzobe ku government okhethwe yimi. Uzokwenza lokho mina ngifuna kwenze lama changes engifuna ukuthi kube khona inguquko la eMzansi Afrika.
If you are comfortable with sharing with the rest of South Africa, who is your political party of choice? Who will you be voting for? Obviously, you enjoy the prerogative not to share that information, but if you're comfortable, who will you be voting for? Who deserves your vote?
That's my secret.
All right, we'll have to leave it at there. And good luck to both of you when you do vote. Of course, as I said earlier, that they will be forming part of the over 2,400 inmates who are expected to cast their vote here at the Khotsimampuru Correctional Services Facility in the heart of Pretoria. Now, nationally, we're looking at about 11,000 inmates who will be voting at over 240 prisons in the country, who will also be joining the rest of the country as we participate in the 2019 elections, obviously to try and vote in the 6th Parliament in democratic South Africa. We'll bring you more updates in terms of how voting goes here at the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Facility. So far, it seems it's all systems go. Of course, a lot of security, you would understand why. But for now, let's give it back to studio.
How Patricia can keep her composure after listening to such a sad story. But yes, I suppose on the flip side, we can be glad that the Constitution still recognizes all the citizens of the country. We're going now to the Provincial Results Center in KZN, and Ayanda Mhlongo is standing by for us there. A very good morning to you, Ayanda.
A very good morning to you, Desiree, and good morning to our viewers at home. On this morning, we reported that there's been a number of service delivery protests taking place throughout the city of Durban and some parts of the province. And just very quickly, it's important that we get a quick update from the IEC. I'm now joined by the acting provincial electoral officer, Mrs. Ndomfuti Masinga, just to get a quick update from the IEC as to the situation and whether all voting stations have opened in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Mrs. Masinga, thank you very much for your time. Just very briefly, take us through this morning. What has been the situation?
We started off pretty well in the bulk of the municipality.
Right, you seem to have lost that link. We will try and return back to Ayanda. But in the studio, we're here with Professor Tiniko Maluleke. What are you hearing about how the morning is progressing?
So far, it's very encouraging. I mean, to know that people are already in queues in Shawelo, in Nkandla,
in Vuwani.
In Vuwani in particular, with all the problems that area has had. And the one citizen who was being interviewed there was very excited that he has voted.
Yeah.
And that tells you that the grand narrative is not
necessarily the only story.
It's not only it's not the only story, and I think it's a good thing. There is nothing more important for a citizen than to be able to vote, because in the proportional representation system, there is no such thing as a wasted vote. Every vote influences how things are going to turn out. Your party may not win the most number, but you're going to influence other parties by voting also.
Another area in the country where turnout and the direction that voting goes will be watched with a keen eye is Alexandra in Johannesburg. And we have right now our reporter there, Nozintombi Mia. Nozintombi, give us a sense of the mood in Alexandra this voting morning.
Well, a very good morning to you, Desiree. We are here on 16th Street in Alexandra. Earlier, we were at the Alexandra Library voting station, and there were some delays that led to some frustration from the registered voters who had come from as early as 3 o'clock in the morning to come and cast their vote. But all has managed to go underway at the different voting stations in Alexandra. And we're going to speak to some of the people who are here to cast their vote. Hi, how are you? Good, and you? It's today your first time coming to cast the vote for the elections. Okay, great. And how are you feeling being here to cast your vote?
Okay, thank you very much. It's not my first time casting my vote. However, I think it's very important for people to remember the significance of casting a vote. It's like having a conversation with a political party to say, these are my needs, and then this is how they should be resolved. In a way, I think politicians need to take each and every person's vote very seriously, and then we as citizens as well, we need not to be destructive in our protest and make sure that everything is done accordingly in proper communication. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And you, sir, you also are here to cast your vote. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, since it's my first time coming to vote. And I urge every youth out there in South Africa to come and cast their votes, because it is very important, since we are all crying that we don't have jobs. This is our way forward to make sure that our future is bright. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Desiree, this is really the starting point. As you can see here, the gentleman, the IEC official, is scanning the IDs of the different voters that are here. And once he scanned the ID, he will be able to issue them out with a ticket where they'll be actually able to go into the IEC voting tent to be able to cast their vote. Gentlemen, hi. You're just about to cast your vote. How excited are you to cast your vote?
Speak.
All right, thank you very much. And we also have one lady who's also cast. You've also cast your vote. How was that for you?
Well, I can see because like it's my first time, but then it was a great feeling overall. But then I hope my voice will be heard.
Yeah. And what are you hoping the changes will be?
Firstly, they should look at the education system and the way the municipalities are run in the townships as well. Like it's really not satisfying to such a point. Like it's not even healthy where we live. Yeah, I think they should just look into that.
All right, just to give you a bit of a tracking shot here at the Alexandra voting station, you'll see the queues of people waiting to cast their vote here at the Alexandra 16th Street voting station. And these are similar scenes that we're seeing across this township of Alexandra. You'll recall in early April, the people here stood up and they went on a protest and they said they wanted change in their community. And today, the 8th of May, the day of voting, is their opportunity to cast their vote for their political party that they believe will be able to bring change in their community. With that, it's back to you in the studio, Desiree.
Thank you so much, Nozintombi. I know it's rather late now, but we should have had a bell in the studio that we would ring every time we talk to a first-time voter, because it's so exciting to see young people who've decided to be the change that they want to see in the country. Let's now go to the Free State province in Bloemfontein specifically, where Aphumelele Mdlalane is standing by. Aphumelele, any events that have taken place where you are this morning?
Good morning to you, Desiree. Actually, I'm not in Bloemfontein. I'm in Marquardt in the Eastern Free State. We must remember this is one of the hotspot areas where we've seen a series of violent protests. We arrived here early in the morning just to check the place since the residents, of course, they've said that they won't be voting, especially the protesters in the area. They said they will disrupt the voting process. But we can see now that people are streaming in here to the voting station, even though there was a delay of 1 hour 30 minutes, because just around 6 o'clock people were already queuing in. And we understand when we talked to the police, they were telling us that there was a tent that was erected outside, but now due to what happened last night, the protesters barricading roads and also tried to burn tires, they tried to disrupt. Now they saw that it is safe that the tent that was erected, which was meant to be a voting area, it had to be removed. Maybe now we can say the glitches and also the delay was caused by those problems. That's why now we are inside a hall, but we can see people are already voting here. We can see they already streaming in. I will just try to get a few so that I can ask, because others were complaining about the cold in the area, but now I just want to ask them, Mama, you are here. Do you want to vote? You are here, of course. It's cold, but you are here. Would you vote again? Are you happy that you are lining up? Would you vote? Buhlokwa ba vota wena? Just another one. Mama, would you vote? Buhlokwa ba vota wena king? Okay, seemingly people are just, of course, scared to talk to us, but we can see with the turnout that they are coming here. They've come in their numbers to vote, even though quite interesting, Desiree. It's only elderly people we see lining up here, but the youth, we haven't seen anyone, we haven't identified anyone, but because it's still early, maybe they will be streaming into this area. We also saw that there's a high police visibility in the area. As I mentioned earlier on, that this is one of the hot spots, and we could see already that those people who said they will be halting the process of voting already, they showed their demonstration by barricading the roads, and also we could see there were smokes, meaning that they did barricade the roads with also burning tires, meaning there was action last night, hence there's visibility of police. But we will, of course, monitor the situation during the course of the day. It's back to you, Desiree.
Thank you so much, Pumelele Mdlalane there. Another voting station we're watching is one in Seshego, where economic freedom fighters CIC Julius Malema is presumably about to vote, but we're not ready to go through yet. So we're going to go to Keith Seystar, who is in Makwaland. Keith, what's happening in your neck of the woods this morning? Keith, what is happening where you are?
Some of the illegal... Hi, good morning to you, Desiree. We are coming to you from Kleins here in the Macqualand, and the main reason why we are here is because some of the illegal diamond miners said that they are not going to vote, and they were going to occupy some of the mining bedrocks here in this area in Kleins. As you know, Kleins here was a diamond mining town. So as we were waiting for the miners to come, they actually didn't arrive yet, but we met up with the police commissioner in the Northern Cape, General Rismati Shivuri, who's here with us to give us an indication as to why he's here, because they were also concerned about the threats that the diamond miners were making. Good morning to you, General. Tell us the situation on the ground at the moment in the Northern Cape. What is it like in terms of security and safety?
All right, we're going to go back to Keith as soon as we're able to. But Prof, the African Conversation wrote an article where they were saying that media had too much emphasis on the leaders and on polls without looking at the actual issues that people are going through on the ground in the lead up to this election. Do you think that was the case?
I don't agree 100% with that. I think that for the first time in South African elections, we have seen a lot more discussion of issues and less discussion of personalities. Of course, there is the Ramaphosa factor, the narrative around Ramaphosa and around Malema and around Maimane. That is inevitable. But I think, comparatively speaking, this is an elections season where more issues have been on the table, and not only because they were in the manifestos, but because they were in the public space. You have the Zondo Commission, you have the PIC Commission, you have all of these things happening at the same time in the run-up to elections. ESCOM, the issues around it. So I don't think we were too preoccupied with leaders this time around if you compare to previous elections.
Do you think the processes at the Zondo Commission are going to have an impact at all in how people vote in this election?
I hope they do. I think so. I think South Africans have had a barrage of information that is coming through to them from all sorts of quarters that is not irrelevant to elections. If you like, these are forms of manifestos that have been given to people, the party lists and the controversies that have accompanied the party lists. That's something that a voter is not going to be able to forget completely as they queue up today. So I think they will have some impact. I don't know how big that impact will be, because South African voters are generally very loyal to their political parties.
Uleboheng Khosilenzwe is standing by for us in Marikana. Uleboheng, what is the mood like where you are?
Good morning, Desiree. The mood is very calm here in Marikana. People are saying that they are so happy that this time around Marikana is calm. There are no incidents of violence that have taken place. None have also been reported. People are quite excited to vote. Some say, though, that they've been voting since 1994. They haven't really seen a lot of changes. You'll understand that Marikana is filled with a lot of informal settlements. There is no road infrastructure, no water, and no electricity. And so those are the things that they are really hoping to see change come about in as far as service delivery is concerned after this particular election. But the mood is generally quite easygoing. People are coming in numbers. I mean, we've counted hundreds and hundreds of people coming here to the Marikana Combined School voting station, where they are, excited to cast their vote today. So I don't anticipate any kind of drama or violence here, but we're yet to see. There's also a lot of police contingents outside the premises just in case anything goes wrong. But as far as things are concerned right now, everything is going smoothly. People are voting. They're excited to talk to us, and they're excited to cast their vote.
Olebogeng, thank you so much for that update. The person currently holding office is expected to vote in Shawelo, and our person there is a senior reporter, Mzwandile Mbeje. Mzwandile, what's the latest in Shawelo?
Well, Desiree, you can see that the voting is proceeding very smoothly here in Shawelo as people also wait for the #1 citizen to come here and vote. And of course, you know that he has a lot of expectations from South Africans. I mean, as soon as this election concludes, in the event he wins, so many people will be pinning their hopes on him to really do something to improve their lives. But interestingly, Desiree, is that we have the family of Shiraz Mohammed, the one journalist who was kidnapped in 2010, where his kidnappers have demanded a ransom of about $1.5 million. So they are here, they are basically saying, so they are not in a position to raise that kind of money, but of course they are appealing to the #1 citizen. So they are using this opportunity really to try and speak to him because they know that it is certain that he's going to come here. They want to really say to him, he must do something if he can. So with me is the family, the children, and of course the mother of Shiraz, Shirin Mohammed. Ma, you've been here since very early, and you are saying you would want to see the president because you feel the plight of your son could perhaps be addressed by him.
Yes, good morning to everybody. I am here to ask my president to help my son, to get my son home. It's a matter of urgency. It's a matter of life and death. Please help my son. He's a son of South Africa. Please bring him back home to us, please.
Well, you can see there, I mean, it's too much for the mother of Shiraz. And of course, there are also other members of the family who are here. So we understand you can't afford this kind of money, and so you basically don't know what to do.
But basically what we've done is we wrote a letter to Cyril Ramaphosa's office, and we are asking him that if he's received the letter, we would like to know what he's going to do about it. And if he hasn't, we're happy to send that letter back to him, because we've liaised with all government departments, whether it's SSA, intelligence, everyone. So government has all our networks, all our leads of people that are willing to help to get Shiraz out. So we're saying we need government to act now. We're running out of time. Shiraz does not have any more time. As you know, the political situation in Syria is very volatile. So it's a matter of time, a matter of days, and we're saying, we are pleading with Mr. President, sir, please, can you help bring Shiraz home, please?
Well, you can hear yourself there that is really the plea that is directed at the head of state, because this is a matter that involves other countries, and the kids there really, together with their parents, pleading to get Shiraz back home. So it's one of those issues that when you are the head of state, you have to deal with. Every South African will pin their hope on the number one citizen, because as the number one citizen, you get entrusted with all sorts of responsibilities. That is why they are here today to say, on this important day when South Africans make their mark, decide who they want to be their government for the next 5 years, they feel they can also make their voice heard to him to say if it is possible that he can do something, they would want him to do something. But of course, as you know, we will continue to monitor the events here as we wait for him to come and a vote at 11 o'clock, and we guess that would be able perhaps to hear what he has to say. They did tell us that they wrote the letter to him and they want to know if he did find that letter and then what his response would be. So we should be able to get that from him once he has cast his ballot. Desiree.
Mzwai, thank you so much. We're awaiting that time around 11 when the president comes through. Quite a sad story there. Let's go through to Mpumalanga. Now Spepile Kunene is standing by for us. Spepile, give us a sense of what's happening in Mpumalanga this morning.
We're coming to you live from Witbank. We are in Pankafeld right now, where it's mostly the white people that are voting this side. It's a suburb. And we will be speaking to one of them that will tell us why they're here. Earlier on, we at the township where we spoke to different people and got their reasons why they want to vote. The Mpumalanga Premier, Refilo Mthweni, also voted at the township earlier on. Now we'll be speaking to John. John will be telling us why he woke up this morning to come here. John, what made you come here this morning? What do you want to do?
First of all, good morning. Hello. Well, certainly, you know, our democratic right to be able to vote and to make your say. You know, it's the only opportunity one has to make a difference. And if you have, if you feel that there's something not right, you can do something about that, you know. So I'm gladly voting today. It's an honor, it's a privilege to vote. And yes, I'm going to make my choice. I'll be there making my cross.
Okay, what do you expect from the government that will be put to place just after these exercises finished?
Well, you know, I'm a Christian. I believe that the party should adhere to Christian principles. And, you know, God says to us, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all the other things will come into place, fall into place. So I'm a strong, firm believer in that. And I'm praying that our country will go forward as a God-fearing nation, praying that they will apply God's principles, and certainly he will bless us if we do that.
In terms of service delivery, what are you expecting?
Well, you know, the service delivery has been shocking, to say the least. The roads, we've got a lot of problems with sewage, etc., and lack of water. Particularly, I'm talking about Witbank, water and electricity. So I'm expecting improvements on all those fronts and all those fields. Yes, we're hoping that the power situation will improve. So I'm actually an Eskom employee. So yeah, so I'm hoping that things will improve there as well financially, and that we'll be able to go forward as a country.
Thank you. That was John Boy, who is one of the people who are on this queue waiting to vote, waiting to cast their vote. They are hoping for the best, of course. He says he wants to see the country going forward. He wants to see the country at its best financially, service delivery, electricity, water, and all that. Back to you, Desiree.
Thank you so much. We're going now to East London, where Janine Lee is standing by. Janine, there was an interesting story coming from your neck of the woods this morning, where this person was saying that their wife was in labor, but they were going voting. What is it like this morning there?
Look, well, that's quite an interesting story, and I can say I'm glad to say that that hasn't happened here, at least. I'm in the maximum security prison for correctional services centre here in East London, and it's business as usual. We got here really early this morning, and the IEC officials were already here setting up. Perhaps you can see behind me, the things are moving really smoothly, but for the voter registration for inmates in prisons in South Africa has been relatively low. 160,000 prisoners in prisons throughout South Africa, and only 11,000 of them have registered to vote. There are a number of reasons for this. Many of the reasons go around the fact it's an ID book related issue. Many of the inmates leave their ID books with their families, and they don't physically have their ID books on them, and this is all for safekeeping. And another reason is that some of the inmates don't have the 140 rand it takes to register for an ID with Home Affairs. And an interesting fact, and I did mention it earlier this morning, but I think I'll say it again, there's talk that some of the inmates discourage other inmates from voting because they feel that this perhaps might highlight other undetected crimes that are against their names. So there are a number of issues, and also we have to wonder how much access do they have to information about the political parties that are contesting. 26 parties here in the Eastern Cape. One would wonder if the prisoners know that there are all these parties on offer. Have they seen their manifestos? But I'm going to be joined by a prisoner. Let's have a chat to him. Dali, thank you for joining us, sir. Welcome. You're going to cast your vote today. What does it mean to you, the fact that you are in prison and you can cast your vote? Share with us what it means to you.
Yes, it means a lot. I say thanks firstly to the officials who gave us the opportunity to vote for the part of our choice. Yes, the reason of my voting for today is because I want to vote for my choice, my part of my choice. Yes.
Are you voting for some kind of change in South Africa? I'm sure you're aware of what is going on the outside. What kind of changes would you like to see happen in your country?
Yes, as I'm a South African citizen, I want to see a change for a better education, a better life for the citizens of South Africa. And because wherever I saw on the TVs, there are people who are busy with the campaigning of the elections. Yes, so I want to say to them, they must keep it up. And as a South African citizen, I want to say thank you to get this opportunity. What I'm expecting from the leader is going to be a leader tomorrow to make everyone who is living in South Africa to give their chance to what they want.
Now, Dali, your vote is your secret, we know that. But can I ask you, do you know how many political parties in the Eastern Cape are contesting? Do you know the number? Do you know how many parties nationally are contesting?
I'm not definitely sure. Maybe it's 24 plus minus 24 if I'm correct.
And have you had access to a lot of information in prison about the various political parties? Do you have access to television and radio, that kind of thing?
When, at the moment? Yes, I get it right now, but before it was no chance to get.
And have you made your mark yet?
Yes.
Okay, it's done. And how did it make you feel?
I'm feeling happy.
Dali, thank you very much. Dali's from my hometown in Port Elizabeth, but fortunately it's a national election, so he can vote. Both votes, he can do provincial and national votes. I'm going to ask Vuyus on camera just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. You can see it's quite a small room, and they're very tight controls. They bring in basically 2 prisoners at a time. They sit on this bench on this side, and then the whole sort of conveyor belt, for want of a better word, works. And then they come and they make their mark, and then they go back to whatever else they would be doing for today. I was speaking to one of the officials, and she said to me that it's quite an exciting time for them to be doing something different and to be looking at different faces. It's a break from the humdrum and normal routine that they go through. And an interesting topic, I spoke to many people this morning before I came to the prison, and I said, should prisoners be allowed to vote? And the jury was out on that one. Many people said they didn't think that prisoners should be allowed to vote. Some people said that their vote should be taken away from them, but that's probably a topic for a debate. From us here in East London, it's back to you in Pretoria.
Thank you so much, Janine. I suppose voting is exciting for different reasons to different citizens. Now we're going to go through to KZN, to Usibonga Gonke Mbata, who's in Lamontville. A very good morning to you, Usibonga Gonke. Kwenzakalani la ukhona sis?
A very good morning to you, Desiree. It's relatively a very sunny and humid morning here in Durban, specifically in Lamont section. We will recall that earlier on we kick-started our day at Ohlange, where everything began, where the former First democratic elected President Nelson Mandela cast his first vote, and we have been traversing in different parts of the province, keeping you updated in terms of the election. But of course, we have been receiving various concerns from as early as the first day of special votes, where people were allegedly being threatened, most voting stations being closed. Even this very morning, we have been receiving allegations that there are people who are saying that they're not going to vote, therefore they are closing down the voting stations. Many of them are indicated to be around Gliblands. Many of them, there's an indication around Umbumbulu. So just to get clarity in terms of security overall, not just in KwaZulu-Natal, but overall, I have with me the National Minister of Police, Bheki Cele. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mambat.
I understand that in terms of security, you were very stern in assuring South Africans, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, that these hotspots areas, because KwaZulu-Natal, we remember that it's one of 2 provinces that were identified as a hotspot. You did assure us that deployment will be intensified in these particular areas. But now we're receiving these allegations of threats going around to presiding officers, gates being closed at some voting stations on the day of election. What's the latest you can give us in terms of security assurance in KwaZulu-Natal this morning?
Well, this is my 10th station since this morning. Everything wherever I've gone, fine, long queues, police enough, with the exception that here in KZN there were 2 incidents. One of those incidents is Ward 109, where people thought that the station has been burnt. Actually, it's the councillor's office that has been burnt. The station is there, the police are there, people are voting. The second one was the closing down of N2 by the people of Kwamakuta. That has been opened. There is a smooth running of the transport. But generally, in the province, the going is well. The deployment of both the South African Police and South African National Defence Force is going well. Well, I have received the report nationally. Looks like the stations have opened. Most of the stations, with the exception of one at MLO, where there was a problem this morning. I think there was a problem of one political party has opened the case. I'm told that they opened the case because they were not sure about the ballot box. Free State, where we had problem yesterday, I spoke to the MEC this morning. Looks like up to this point, things are fine. Gauteng, there was a place, one place where people they've said they are not opening. The Provincial Commissioner, General Mawela, has been there. I've spoken to the National Commissioner. Looked like up to this far, things seems to be stable, things seems to be going well. We pray and we hope, but also we are on the ground to snap every kind of problem that is happening. As I'm said, where they closed Niem Kababa, they closed into 2 people already have been arrested this morning. So we are reacting and responding to all people that are trying to block and to disturb the smooth running of elections.
Speaking of the smooth running of elections, this is a day where millions of South Africans come out to different voting stations, of course, to cast their vote. In terms of the intensity, specifically to these identified areas that are possibly hotspots in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We mentioned Gliblands, we mentioned Kwamashu. It seems like Amazimtoti, Ilovo, Mgababa are also just boiling in. As the day progresses, are we getting assurance that such incidents that we are hearing on the ground will subside?
Mama, let's make the difference here. The police are not there to say to people, you go and vote if they don't want to vote. We are not there to stop the legitimate, constitutionally protesting of the people going there. We are there when they break the law, when violence comes, when people are blocked, when property is destroyed. So there must be that. People will talk to say they are not going to vote, but once they begin to physically block those people that want to go to vote, we act on those. So I think people must separate that. We are not infringing in anybody's right, either for or against. What we have received now, as you say, are allegations and threats that have been there. But unlike yesterday night at Umlazi, where almost all Mangosuthu was closed down, we have opened. I've driven there 4 times this morning. everything is smooth and all that. So if people are standing out there, they say they don't go to vote, nothing we can do as a South African police. But once you say you want to vote, we'll open the gates, all gates that are closed. Then there are people who want to go and vote, we'll open those. So I want to make that different because it looks like it's a crime to say you are not going to vote, it's a crime to stay home. No, it's not, according to the Constitution of South Africa. But if you begin to block other people, then you're committing crime, then we'll act.
We understand that you have quite a busy itinerary ahead. You will be visiting various voting stations and police stations, working on the ethos of ensuring safety throughout the day.
Well, I've just voted myself, hence you see my ANC scarf, because here I'm a voter here. As I moved here, I go back to my hat of being the minister. We have started to one hotspot, that is your hostel called Unit T17. Things were so smooth, queues were so long. I went to another hostel called Teis. I heard saying that stations are not open in Clip is not very correct because the MEC Kaunda went there this morning and they've given the report that everything is fine. From here, another hotspot that we have always raised is hostel in Guamashu. I was there yesterday, we're going back there. We'll go to Ilembe, 2 places called Indwetwe and 1 place called Lindelani. Up to this point, things are fine.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
That was, of course, the National Minister of Police assuring that everything is fine in KwaZulu-Natal. Safety and security, everything is going smoothly, as I would quote him. He's saying that everything is smooth. All the allegations that they're hearing, they're just making sure that everyone is granted a chance to go to their respective voting stations and cast their vote. Those who don't want to vote, they can't do anything against that. But their role is to ensure safety and security, and that's exactly what they're saying. Respect to studio.
Thank you so much, Sibonga Gonke. Now let's go through to Limpopo, and our reporter there, Musa Mabunda, is standing by. Musa, the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, has predicted that his party will take about 50% of Limpopo. Of course, we've seen the state president, his campaign there being very successful, especially in Seshego, this very campaign that the EFF put off as a fake campaign. What is happening this morning?
Good morning, Desiree. Indeed, the EFF says it's going for the kill. And of course, we are coming to you live from here at Seshego, just outside Polokwane. This is Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF, will be voting. This is his voting station. The name of this primary school here is Mpumalanga Primary School. It's not only his voting station, but this is where he started his schooling as a young boy in the late 80s. He started here at grade 1 or standard A at that time. And then today we are expecting him to come at any time. He can arrive at any time from now. And then, as you know, today it will be a different day for Mr. Malema, because for the first time since 2014, he wouldn't be with his grandmother, Sara Malema, who has passed away. There's a bereavement in this family. You know, he had made it his tradition that every time during elections, he would walk here hand in hand with his grandmother and then would come and cast his vote. However, we expected him to be accompanied by his wife, Manto Malema, and the provincial leadership of the EFF. The provincial chairperson of the EFF in the province of Limpopo, Josie Butani, has already arrived here. He's waiting to receive Mr. Malema, who can arrive at any time from here. But here in this station, the IEC hasn't experienced any challenges. The voting is moving smoothly. We've been seeing minibuses coming here, dropping off and picking up the voters. Some are happily ready, wearing their political parties' regalia, but it's peaceful here. The political parties are here outside the premises of the station. They are camping here. I'll allow my cameraman, Musama Maila, just to pan and show you how peaceful it is. The political parties are there in their gazebos, but it's peaceful. They are chanting. The EFF people are waiting for Mr. Julius Malema to arrive, and then once he arrives, he will go through the voting processes. He will queue at the queue, and then from there he will go inside, produce his ID just like any other voter, and then from there he will come to us straight and give us the interview. We will ask him about how his feelings are, since for the first time today he will be without his grandmother.
Musa will be coming back to you as soon as the leader of the EFF comes through. But right now, we're going back to Nkandla, where Mlungisi Khumalo is standing by. Mtungwa, what's the latest where you are?
Okay, hi Desiree, as well as a good morning to our viewers at home. Currently, the former President Jacob Zuma has not arrived as expected. We were then told that he was going to be here by 10 a.m., but he is not here yet. But with me over here, I've got some of the residents and citizens of Nkandla. Basically, what they said that they've done voting already, but now they are waiting to see their former president. Anyway, let me just pose a few questions to some of them. Gogo, sabonga ngesikhathi sakho, uvotile namhlanje, uzizwa unjani?
Ngizizwa ngimnandi ngani yami. Ngoba ngivotela umuntu engimthandayo. Wangakhela umgwaqo, wangipha amanzi, wangipha ugesi. Ayikho into ehlula leyo kimi wangiphilisa.
Siyabona ukuthi usuvotile kodwa manje ulinda uncamalala.
Abantu bangimi la, ngabe sengihambela ngiyagula, ngilinda uncamalala qala ngimbone ngene ephuma.
Uzothini ke musimbona?
Ngizothi Zuma namsholozo ngancamalala.
Siyabonga. Gogo uvotile nawe namhlanje usizwa njani lokuvotile?
Awu ngizwa ngijabule. Jabule kakhulu kabi namhlanje bangivotile nje. Akho nkinga nje. Ngwenze konke okufanele bekufanele ngikwenze. Akabikho ushintsho, akabikho lutho ngisemkhona lapho nje. Ayikho indlela.
Ungabanye abantu abasevotile kodwa manje uthe ulinda ukubona uncamalala.
Linda ukubona uncamalala ngisamazi ke ngimbingelele nje ngomakhelwana wami. Ngithi ncamalala njani kodwa na phela nje.
Ma ngomunye futhi umuntu ovotile namhlanje usizwa njani lokuvotile?
Ngijabule kakhulu. Ngijabule kakhulu sengivotile sengilinda uncamalala ngivalelise ngithi bye uncamalala msholozi.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Those are some of the elderly ladies who have voted, but they said they were going to wait for the former president Jacob Zuma and then they're going to greet him as well. But anyway, let me now pose a few questions to an IEC official, ask him about the voting demographics here today. I mentioned earlier on that interesting enough, young people in the place of Nkandla, a rural community, were coming out in their numbers to vote. When people hear about Nkandla, most people just know it because this is where the former President Zuma lives. This is where former President Zuma actually has his house. You remember the whole controversy around the building of Nkandla Gate. But also quite interesting enough, did you know that in Nkandla there is a school that has produced over 60 doctors? That school is in the town of Nkandla and it's called Velangai. But anyway, let me again pose a few questions to an IEC officials. How are the voting proceedings going today?
So far, everything is going well. So far, we have received, I think, 280 voters. Then we are still expecting more because we are having 1,500 voters that might come to vote here. So we've got 2 substations inside. So because this VD has got more voters, so far things are going well. So we have seen a young one and older one coming in numbers. So far we are doing well.
You are expecting former President Jacob Zuma to come here and cast his vote in Ntolwane Primary School. You've got a host of people waiting here for him. Are you prepared for all that?
As usual, we are always prepared. So today, nothing is new. We are going to do as we've done it before.
Thank you very much, sir. That is an IEC official right here in Ntolwane Primary School, where former President Jacob Zuma is expected to come and cast his vote here early this morning. I mentioned to you earlier on, Desiree, that Mantuli was also here, the wife of former President Jacob Zuma. Now you understand the whole controversy surrounding here as well.
Thank you so much there, Tumlungisi. Prof, the goodwill that the former President Jacob Zuma continues to enjoy from some segments of the citizenry, how can he use that going forward?
It's quite interesting, and I think the question is whether he will continue to use it for the ANC, to build the ANC. So far he has. He has been campaigning for the ANC, and I think it's a good thing. I sometimes have felt that he was too present for the new president, being there, almost contesting space.
Yeah.
But it depends how the space is used. And until now, I think he has worked for the ANC. It's a good thing for a former president to continue to represent the party.
All the leaders have gone back to their constituencies, and we're going to go to Mpumalanga now, where apparently the deputy state president is about to cast his ballot. Let's go there live.
Well, Desiree, the Deputy President is expected to arrive here at any minute now. So at the moment, we are at the farm where the Deputy President is expected to cast his vote. So we're just going to try and go inside the premises where the Deputy President is expected actually to make his way in here and make his vote. It's very, very quiet here at the polling station in Azuri Farm because there's only been a security that has come here to come and see if the place ready for the Deputy President to come here and cast his vote. So far, there's a bunch of security outside. People are coming in, but they're only coming in one by one. It's only have been, so far since we've been here since 9 o'clock, we've only seen maybe about 20 people that have come to cast their votes here. So the Deputy President will start here and he will walk across this area where he will be receiving his ballot papers, and then he will go into one of these boxes where he will cast his vote for both provincially and nationally, and use one of these ballot boxes. They are sealed. We've checked them, so they will put them one of both of these ballot papers inside one of these ballot boxes, and then he would obviously walk out and give us an interview and talk to us about what the expectation of what he has voted for, and also the fact that he has casted his vote. And then also, let's speak to this gentleman since we've been here. That they just talk to us about coming to vote. What are you expecting, and also are you excited, and what do you think your vote will do? Uyajabula ucabanga ukuthi party ozoyivotela izoletha ichange empilweni yakho, ozoletha ichange empilweni abantu bonke base South Africa?
Yeah, ngivele iyachubeka nokwenza ama changes njengoba kunjalo.
Okay, Ndate, let's let you in. Ndate, this gentleman is going to go inside and then cast his vote, as also people are coming in to cast their vote here at Azuri Farm, where the Deputy President is expected to arrive at around 11 o'clock. That's when we're expecting him to come here and also cast his vote here at the province.
Thank you so much there to Dumelo Machoho. Quite a hectic morning. We're touching base literally everywhere to try and see how South Africans are going by this morning, where they will be exercising their democratic right. Quite an important one. Your thoughts so far, Prof? We went to the prisons. The Minister of Justice, the Advocate Masuta, saying that even though prisoners lose some of their rights, this is the one right they get to keep.
That prison in particular is quite significant in the history of the country. Just think of the name Solomon Mahlangu, and you will see how significant that prison has been in a negative sense. So it's a good thing that we're trying to rehabilitate that memory, that painful memory, but also trying to send a message to prisoners to say that correction is the aim. It's not mere meaningless punishment that you are suffering. And I think it's an important thing to invite prisoners to participate in this very important moment.
It also speaks into the global conversation where in advanced countries there's conversations about the exponential growth of correctional facilities and the numbers of citizens who continue to just flow into those facilities. What is your sense of how South Africa is wanting to speak to this segment of our society?
I don't think that conversation has been deep enough. I don't think that there has been enough urgency around it, because the size of prison population is always an indication of the ills of society, if you like. A society can't be sending so many young people to prison if there's nothing wrong systemically, if you like, with that society. There are issues of economy, there are issues of morality, there are issues of class, because who goes to prison and who doesn't go to prison is another issue. In some countries it's racial, and I think in this country also there are elements of race and age that ought to worry us. Many of those people who are in prison ought to be at school. They ought to be the people making the discoveries and the innovations that we talk about when we refer to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So it's not an innocent thing that our prisons are overflowing. Of course, wrongdoers must be sent to prison.
Yes.
But you can't be overproducing wrongdoers and think you are a normal society.
The other conversation that comes into that scenario is, again, the Raymond Zondo Commission. The people who are in these prisons are supposed to be rehabilitated, but the politicians we're voting for today are the very people who have been implicated, especially in relation to the relations about Bosasa at the Zondo Commission.
So I hear behind your question there's something that you don't want to say openly, and I'll say it for you. I'll say it for you. That some of the politicians ought to be in behind bars, and that they ought to be wearing that uniform that we see prisoners wearing. We haven't until now, except for John Block and perhaps Alan Busak, and you could argue that Tony Ngeni has also, been put through the system, as it were, for wrongdoing.
And he has claimed that he's rehabilitated.
Yes. But for the large part, we haven't seen any big prominent politician being found guilty and being sent to prison. We have certainly seen nothing like what South Korea, you were referring to the international scene. I mean, there is that picture of the president of South Korea in handcuffs being led to prison by the police. We have not yet reached the place where, like in Brazil, a former president was jailed. So, and it does speak to the kind of insurance that politicians have in our system. It's a kind of impunity, if you like, that they have enjoyed until now. But who knows? Maybe the Zondo Commission will change all that.
Let's come back to the events of today. The significance of the president voting in Shawelo.
It's a very significant thing. I mean, he's a man who grew up in Shawelo, and that's his home ground. Shawelo is part of Soweto, and Soweto is a very important monument of the struggle in this country for all manner of reasons. So for the president to be voting in Soweto, in Shawelo, at home, to be going back there to say, I come from here, you made me who I am.
Yeah.
And also the politics of township versus city in this country. We continue to see townships be lagging behind. Development is not happening in townships. Development still goes to city centers. All you need to do is to be caught in traffic between Soshanguve and Pretoria in the evening, or between Soweto and Johannesburg in the evening. That tells you that nothing is changing much. So it's good that the president is there, and maybe Maboneng will go to Shawelo, because why is Maboneng where Maboneng is? We need Sandton in Middlelands, where I come from. So I think it's very significant that the president is voting in the township today, and the township that made him.
Now, we're going to also talk about the fact that his roots are in Shawelo, but he's also from Limpopo. And if the polls are anything to go by, there's a huge contestation between his party and the party of Julius Malema in that area. But right now, let's just speak to the footage that we're seeing on the screen. The former President Jacob Zuma holding a Louis Vuitton purse, a Louis Vuitton wallet. Oh, my word. Okay. Taking out his ID as he prepares to vote. This particular activity, speak to us about it.
Well, it's a pity that the cameras focused on the Louis Vuitton.
We don't have to go there.
Yeah.
I'm a girl, you see, so I needed to notice that.
I think it is, as I said, I think it's very significant that the former president is voting and is participating in the political system at the moment. Given that his predecessor went on leave for some time, Some would call it fed up leave for some time. He himself has recently come out saying, I now can speak, honestly. And the fact that this president has continued, as it were, is not entirely a bad thing, because it says to us that he is still invested, he still wants democracy to thrive, he still wants to participate in it. And I think that for the local people, as we heard, this is a very significant thing. There are people who went there and voted and they say, I'm waiting, I want to sing Malala.
What do you make of the stories that have been coming out about his role, his hand in the formation of parties that are necessarily working against the ANC? Hold on to that thought. We're going to go to Seshego now. Apparently, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, has arrived in Seshego. Quite a moment for him, where he used to go with Kokosara, and now today he's there with his wife, Mantwa. Quite a moment for him.
I think it's
at a personal level.
Emotional. A very emotional moment for him, given the timing of the death of his grandmother, going back to that place. And Julius Malema is a post-South African. I mean, if you think about it, he was only 13 when Chris Hani died in 1993. So he
already active at that age.
Already active at that age, went on a bus, came up to the funeral, and he has grown into the man that he has become in this side of things. So if you think about it, the 25 years that we have had a democracy are a huge chunk of his own life. Actually, the majority of his life was spent during that time. And boy, oh boy, has he contributed. I think he has. Forming this party that we now forget is less than 10 years old, 5 years old, and making the difference, changing the tone of Parliament in many ways, and teaching us that you don't need large numbers to make a difference in Parliament.
So you're saying in hindsight it was a good decision to break away and start his own?
I'm not commenting about the breakaway, I'm commenting about the significance of the
impact he's made.
The impact it has made to the politics of the country. I think we must give the EFF that, we must give Julius Malema that, and one hopes that as he votes today, he will also recognize the significant role he has played so far in the politics of the country.
So when you're a political leader, and there are all these conversations about a possible coming together with your previous master, but there are also these constituencies to consider who have followed you on the basis of your message and your ideology. How do you come to a decision?
You know, I wouldn't like to be in Julius Malema's shoes as far as that is concerned, but we have to maintain a level of suspicion regarding this narrative of Julius' possibility of coming back to the ANC. We need to look, when does this narrative wake up? When does it come up? It seems to me that it's cyclical. It comes up at certain times.
Is it really cyclical? Some people have said that looking at the numbers, the amount of people who have voted, and how they need to split in terms of how they need to get seats in Parliament, the possibility is only a conversation between the ANC and the EFF can make sense.
Well,
so it's not necessarily historical. It's based on the events as they unfold now.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of wishful thinking and a combination of some realism, if you like, and some nostalgia, because Julius has got these two personas. One was problem child of the ANC. You remember for a long time he was the problem child. And now the problem child has become the prodigal son. And what do prodigal sons do?
All right.
They eventually go back home.
Hold on to that thought, Prof. Let's go straight to Musa Mabunda now, speaking to Julius Malema. Julius Malema there with his wife Mantwa Malema, who has seemingly been a very strong presence in his development, in his political career and his personal life, accompanying her husband on this morning in an act where he ordinarily would be accompanied by his late grandmother, Gugu Sarah Malema. We're hoping to be talking to him soon. Our reporter, Musa Mabunda, is there. But it doesn't look to be happening yet. This is a primary school that he went to, and this is where he's been voting in the past few years. We can also see in Nkandla, the residents there must be very happy. Ufikile uNgqamalala there sitting with uMakhumalo. Umakhumalo, no Mama Bida, no Mangema, I think. Our reporter in the morning.
Some elderly woman, it's not clear. It looks like it is a relative, and on the other side, it's his wife, Mantwa Malema. They will be making their way into the voting station shortly. And then we have seen the observers here from the African Union who are here as well. We have spoken to them earlier on. They are happy with the situation here. You know, their presence here adds credibility to the voting processes of the IEC, especially here at the station where the leader of the third biggest political party in the country will be making his mark. Of course, shortly after that, we'll talk to Mr. Malema. Remember, here where we are in this station, the IEC hasn't experienced any challenges such as protest or violence or anything like that. And then they're quite confident that it will be a free flow here. It will be a smooth sailing here. And then shortly after he casts his vote, we'll talk to Mr. Malema, the leader of the EFF, just to hear his views and just to understand what is he voting for today together with his followers. Back to you, Destre.
Mr. Malema doesn't seem too keen to be speaking to the media at this moment, but we'll continue making an effort there. Let's go back to Shawelo Mzwandile Mbeche. What is the latest where you are?
Oh, well, the wait still continues, Desiree. As you can see, people already queuing. I mean, they queued from early this morning. But let me try and speak to some of the people who have come to cast their vote, where the president will also be voting. Sanibona baba. So siyabona ukuthi nilapha nizimisele niyafisa ukuvota kusho ukuthini kuwe lokho?
Lokho baba kusho ukuthi kimi kumele ngikhohlwe okwenzakele ngibheke okusha okuzayo empilweni yami.
Ucabanga ukuthi emva kwalolu khetho izinto mhlambe zizoshintsha isimo soba ngcono?
Yebo baba, njengoba kuphethe uSirel dala ayi-president, mina ngokwami individual dala bengumlindile vele, so ngijabule kakhulu mangimbona naye akhonile ukufinyelela ukuze abe president, akwazi ukuba naye afeze naye isifiso sakhe ebekade asifisa ukuba ancede abantu base eSouth Africa.
Wena njengomuntu walapha kusho ukuthini kuwe omunye wendodana yenu ingumongameli?
Ngijabule kakhulu, especially uSirel ngiyamazi, mina ngizalelwa khona la eShawela, ngifunde khona la kulesikolo, yena bekafunda eChilizi. So as those community siyazana, but uyabona sihlukene ngokwemfundo. So ngajabula kakhulu ukumbona ngendlela asebenza ngakhona kuCodesa noRoof Mayor. Mina ngesifiso sami bengifisa ngathi ngalomzuzu uRoof Mayor ngabe beka iDA, uSirel kube iANC, khona sizokwazi ukuthi sithole inkululeko. Ngoba ngendlela abenza ngakhona kwangijabulisa kakhulu.
Siyabonga kakhulu baba. There's someone who really grew up with President Cyril Ramaphosa here in Chiawelo, saying he's very happy that he is voting here. He is the son of this community, and then he hopes he will do all the good things for all South Africans.
An interesting sentiment coming out from that person that was being interviewed, Prof, saying that Cyril has been a president all along, he's been waiting for him, and the global sentiment that this is the person that was chosen by Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of goodwill. He's riding on a lot of goodwill, certainly among those who support him, chosen by the president, a president whose time has been delayed, because many people feel he should have become president at
much
that time.
sooner. All right, let's go back to Nkandla Mtungwa. Kuthiwa umtholile uNgamalala.
Yes, the former president is over here. He's just waiting in the queue just like everybody else. He greeted the crowds. Most of the elderly ladies were very, very happy to see him. So he's now going to make his way in and he's going to vote. There's a number of people over here in Nkandla who have come out in their numbers to see him. Most of them did not actually just come to vote only, but have also come to also greet the former president. As you heard earlier on during our crossing, most of them said that they still love their former president and they've described him as a very, very good person. Some of the elderly ladies that we spoke to earlier on, we also spoke to IEC officials as well, who said that they've been expecting the former president to make his way in here. So former President Jacob Zuma has made his way inside the IEC voting center in Ntolwane in Nkandla. So he'll follow the queue just like everybody else. He insisted that he wanted to follow the queue as well. He's now gone through the first process where they verify his ID. So he's just given the IEC official his ID, and then the IEC official will then go through the register and check if he is registered to vote like everybody else. And surprise, surprise, he is registered to vote here in Dolwane voting station. He is accompanied by his family as well, who are outside. We saw Uma Kumalo as well, who's also here. We also saw some of his children as well. So he will now sit down and look at. There we go. Former President Jacob Zuma seems to be in very high spirits. Okay. There we go. Two papers, one national and the other provincial. Now you also recall that IEC officials have made it very clear, saying that people should not vote when they see a paper without an IEC stamp. And the former president has seen that. So he's verified all his details and is now making his way to the voting booth where he is going to vote. Of course, we are not allowed to go in there.
You wish you could.
Vugile, his spokesperson, says, I wish I could. So we're just having a hearty laugh about it. There we go. He's going to vote on the national ballot paper and then the provincial ballot paper. The former president is in, but his family remains outside queuing as well, just like how he did. It's normal procedure. IEC officials did mention that they were expecting this, but they cannot stop it. Former President Jacob Zuma still enjoys a lot of support in Nkandla, especially amongst the elders. One of the ladies did praise him, saying that she loves former President Jacob Zuma because she has built roads for them, he has built clinics for them, and he has also built a school for them. So right after he has voted, he will then make his way outside. He will make his way outside and then he's going to address some of the ANC members, whom most of them are here at Ntolwane. Okay, there we go. He's emerged. he's made his vote. And he's gonna cast his vote. The first time the former president votes after leaving office. A momentous occasion for him. He's very happy, very jovial. There we go. There he says that's the winning vote. Former president says that's the winning vote. So he'll now make his way to the media and he'll also speak to the media as well. We are hoping to get an interview with him. There he is, he's talking to a ANC supporter here. And there we go, he's also going to talk to the media now. Let's now make our way.
And then from there, we went to be inked. And then from there, now he's casting his ballot into the box. First is the provincial ballot box, and then is the provincial or the national ballot box. Next to him is his wife and the provincial chairperson, Josie Butana. Remember, the EFF says it's going for the wheel. They want to get the majority votes and be government. They want to go. And then now, it's now coming to us. Will talk to us, and then he will tell us his feelings. You remember, it's a very emotional day for him. It must be a very emotional day for him today, because for the first time since 2014, he's coming to this voting station without his grandmother. And then we are ready now to talk to Mr. Malema. He's surrounded by his followers. The people are excited here to see him. When he arrived, he was received.
Musa Mabunda, they're preparing to have a chat with EFF leader Julius Malema. Quite a moment for him, and I think the rest of the nation, whether you're EFF or not, is mourning with him at this time.
Oh yeah, it's such a bittersweet moment in many ways for him, because here is this great opportunity for the EFF to advance and grow, if indeed the voters will agree with their campaign. And at the same time, he loses his grandmother, I mean, who also was his mother, effectively, you know, and he calls her his mentor. So it's a bittersweet moment. But I think he should know that her spirit is with him and is supporting him.
Like the African son, son of the soil that he says he is.
Precisely. You know, so her spirit must be urging him on and wishing him well. And hopefully that spirit will protect him also.
Yeah. I laugh in this day and age of social media. Somebody on Twitter saying, Nangu Ngamalala voting for BLF. That conversation we were having again earlier keeps cropping up about his hand in supporting other parties that are not necessarily working with the African National Congress.
Yeah, it's a deeply contradictory thing about him, given that some evidence has now been provided or suggested, at least let me not use a strong word, about his involvement in those parties.
Okay, let's go back to Julius Malema to hear what he has to say after casting his vote together with his wife, Manto Malema.
And it's just a photo op moment now for the media and for the public at large. And then we will be talking to him shortly after this. Remember, the Malema family is still there is still bereavement in the family. His grandmother has just passed away just a few days ago. In fact, it was on the eve of these elections. And then the funeral hasn't even taken place yet. We suspect that the funeral will happen this weekend. We are waiting to cross or to talk to Mr. Malema now after this photo op. And then we'll hear his views. Back to studio.
Well, there you have a photo opportunity for the Malema family that is currently in mourning for their grandmother. And in a short while, we're going to go back to Shawelo, where Mzwai Mbeje is, because it looks like all indications are that the president will be arriving any moment now. I don't know if we're showing this footage on the screen. The spokesperson, Kusela Diko, they're walking in. As soon as you see her, you know that any moment now we will be seeing the president of the Republic of South Africa walking through those gates to come and cast his votes. In terms of electoral procedures, when does the official time of the current officials stop? Was it yesterday? Is it today at midnight? When do they stop being in their official positions?
I suppose...
I'm so sorry to do this to you, but we're going to have to go to Nkandla. Apparently, they're talking to the former president. Let's go there.
Very important, because you must put your vote where you know there will be something happening, benefits, as well as the improvement of the country, not just because people are shouting better slogans, but which party says it will deliver a better South Africa, better than others. That's one thing in my observation during this election that I thought it was lacking. Parties were not sticking to their policies to tell the voters, this is what we'll do for you, in a serious sense, except in sloganeering. So I'm hoping that our education to democracy is indeed getting better. And I must also say, you guys, when you were talking to these political parties, you were not asking them on issues very directly. What are you going to do on this and this and this? You were just wanting them to tell you, you know, but next time now, nani is all to talk. Thank you very much. Ngizizwa nginokujabula okukhulu ukuthi namhlanje
Whose mic is this?
All right, we've gone back to Seshego now. Julius Malema has just finished casting his vote. We're going to hear what he has to say. Any moment now, he will be telling us his feelings about this particular process of voting.
It's his province. You can't do anything without it. Yes, yes. Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Why yet?
Okay.
Why yet? What 13? Where the commander-in-chief has casted his vote with his family, the wife, and the aunt and the granny. You have seen the mood. The mood is that one of the EFF taking over. Our people are saying the EFF must continue to give them land like they've given them. The EFF has given them Juju Valley. And they are saying we must go in parliament to get other things done. Many things like water, basic services, proper free education. And you can see Seshego, the whole of it is ready today in other parts of the province of Limpopo. We are very happy with the reception our people are receiving us, in particular older people that are accompanied by the majority of young people as well. So we are here with the Commander-in-Chief. We are giving him over to you. Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief.
Thank you very much. Someone says we must speak in spade, so unfortunately we are not speaking to the audience here. We're speaking to the bigger audience, which may not know our vernac. I want to take this opportunity to really thank South Africans for coming out in their numbers, for exercising their democratic right. A lot of people died for us to vote, and we are here to honor those memories. And we once more want to thank the ground forces of the EFF, who have done everything humanly possible for the EFF to win these elections. We have now voted, and once the stations are closed, the waiting period starts. So we'll wait, and South Africans will tell us what they've decided. If the Sebokeng people want to stay in the debt environment, they stay in. If the people want to continue unemployed, if the people want to continue landless, if the people want to perpetuate the instituted corruption, they must continue to vote for the same party they've been voting for. So if you need change, the EFF is the way to go. And whatever numbers we'll receive from our people, we'll welcome them with both hands. It's a mandate. Even one vote counts. We'll accept that those are the results, and this is what the people of South Africa feel about the EFF. Everyone has worked very hard. There's no one in the EFF who hasn't worked very hard. They continue to work because even now, they are fetching elderly people, bringing them to the stations, returning them back home safe. They will rest when the voting station closes. So we are hard at work, and we will continue to work until the last ballot paper is counted. All party agents must remain vigilant, must guard the EFF vote, because we know we're dealing with thugs from the other side. They can steal our votes. So where there is no party agent of the EFF, we call upon people of South Africa to tweet us, to Facebook us, to Instagram us, to SMS us, and tell us that they voted, they didn't see EFF a party agent or a table where they voted. Will immediately deploy party agents to go and look after the EFF vote. The last point I want to make is to thank the messages of condolences from all South Africans who have sent their heartfelt messages to us, and as the family of Malema.
Well, you see there, Julius Malema, following protocol, waiting for the provincial chairperson of the EFF, Josie Botani, before he starts to engage with the media, talking there about the process and saying that every vote counts. But of course, we know it's not every one vote counts. They have to get the minimum votes to be able to get those seats in parliament.
Yes, for a political party, that's the important thing, to garner the votes necessary to get the number of seats in parliament. But it is true that every vote counts, because whether you vote for this or that party, you have an influence as to the shape and form of parliament, either by sending the delegate of your party to parliament or by reducing the number of the delegates of another party in parliament. So there is no such thing as a wasted vote. I will not tire from saying that, and South Africans need to know that. If they are prevaricating and thinking, should I not, please go and vote. There is no wasted vote. Look, this narrative, I hope it does not get too pronounced. And that it is not one that takes prominence, because the IEC until now has done a fantastic job, and I think we need to have confidence in the IEC and to support the IEC, and I think it is necessary for political party leaders to speak well of the IEC unless they have evidence of anything that is unbecoming.
Where are people getting hold of those unstamped ballot papers?
It's a puzzle, and it's a worrying sign that we already have had incidents like this. And I hope that the IEC will get on top of this very quickly, because, you know, they have a great reputation, the South African IEC, but it only takes a few things for that reputation to go up in
Absolutely.
smoke. And I hope that doesn't happen.
Sipho Stirman, you usually cross to us from Pretoria, but we're now in your locale, so we can say from us to you. What's happening where you are?
Well, a very good morning to you, Desiree. We are just outside the Union Building lawns, where there is a voting station here, long queues currently. But where we are at the park that's opposite the Union Buildings. And now this park is normally occupied by the homeless that sleep here, homeless in Pretoria, people that obviously don't have their homes, people that are struggling to make ends meet. And the reason that we've come here is because we are trying to get the viewpoints of those that do not have a roof over their top, over their heads, rather, do not have a roof over their heads, to find out whether they're going to be participating in these elections. We've spoken to some already, and some have indicated that they will be voting, while others are saying they will not be voting because, well, their difficult living conditions say that there is no government that can help them. Now, I'm joined by one such person here who lives here on the streets of Pretoria in this park. Say, if you can just give me your name and surname, and just tell me, how long have you been living here in this park?
Yeah, my name is Lagi Selemela. It's been 5 years living in this park.
So how are you surviving here, firstly?
I'm surviving about the food parcels, where there's an organization and churches that are giving us food on daily basis.
All right, and you said to me that you have voted. So why have you decided to vote? I've spoken to some of the people that you live with here. They're saying they're not voting. They are very unhappy. But you've decided that you're going to vote despite living on the streets.
Yeah, yes, even myself, I'm not happy with the situation that I'm living with. But yes, the previous government has failed us, which is ANC, that is currently leading now. So, but I just say, no, let me give a chance to another party, because I cannot say that all the party will fail me, you see.
And what sort of chance are you looking for as a man that's living on the streets? I mean, I can imagine winter is coming. It can't be easy.
Yeah, the reason I chose EFF is because I'm looking for the job. I think that if I can get the job and I get a shelter, then that's the thing that I'm hoping for, that EFF can give me.
Hoping for a job and a shelter. Well, that's one homeless man. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us. We've decided to vote. He stays in one of his home, rather, is from one of the northern townships here in Pretoria, saying that unlike some of the people that he lives with here, he's decided to vote, voting for hope and hoping for change. Now, Desiree, if you just look here behind me, maybe I can step out of the shot. You can see many people queuing here by the Union Buildings, queuing to cast their votes, and it's actually quite something, because we know whoever wins these elections is going to occupy that building there at the Union Buildings, and the queues since this morning. We were here since early at 7 o'clock. People have been coming out here. We are seeing a lot of young people that are also, participating in these elections, are saying that they want to make their mark. But yes, very diverse views of the homeless. Some of them saying they're not voting. Some of them they're saying they're voting because they want to change. Desiree.
See in the other footage on the screen, umntwana sekafikile to vote in Ulundi. Soon we'll be talking to our colleague there, Usimpiwe Makanya. But there you see the leader of the Inkatha Freedom Party, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, has arrived. He's about to cast his ballot. And as you can see there, in fact, some of the polls predicting that the IFP will be increasing its presence in this election.
Yeah, certainly, it looks like the ANC factions in that region have not helped the ANC very much. The violence and the political killings have added to a sense of disenchantment, if you like, in the province for the ANC. And
was the Nkandla Commission any successful in uncovering these the causes of these killings?
I think it was helpful. I think it was helpful in that we got to know a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you could say that it has produced a report that shoots the stars down.
Even in like 2 days ago, reports were still coming in of killings.
Precisely, you know, so there's still a problem there, and the NFP has been struggling with Umama.
Uzanele Magwaza.
Yes, struggling with her own health. Unfortunately, the party has also been struggling with its own health as a party, because she's been struggling. And that, I think, has opened space.
So breaking away is not always a guarantee for success.
No, I mean, COPE, the original breakaway in South African politics, where are they now today? So it's not easy. It's easier to break away, but to grow and to sustain that growth is quite a challenge. And we have seen many attempts to break away, and we have a graveyard, if you like, of breakaway political parties. And we have had funerals of breakaway political parties. Some refuse to die, but they are not
Well, there you
alive.
have it. The Desiree IFP leader, Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, has just produced his identity document and, of course, is making his way into the ballot papers where he will be voting in these very crucial elections this time around. His party, Desiree, is the fourth biggest party in the National Assembly, and he has, over the past few months, announced that he will be now officially stepping down after being the leader of the party since it was formed in 1975. When we arrived here this morning, Desiree, perhaps I can just give you an update of the situation that has unfolded. The IEC here in this voting station says that all so far is going according to plan. No disturbances have been reported, but we do understand that the area of Ulundi has had a problem of electricity since yesterday night. There was a blackout, and in some areas as well do not have water. But the IEC officials saying that those disturbances have not in any way affected the voting process, which is currently underway. Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi has now been given the ballot papers. He is now going to be making his way into that ballot box, where he will be officially now casting his vote in the 2019 general elections, Desiree. And we are hoping that afterwards we will then be able to get a comment from him as to how he feels about these elections, and also the party's campaign ahead of the elections, whether he's confident that the party will be able to grow, because you would understand also, Desiree, that the party has had quite a number of challenges.
Well, also on our screens, we see there at Azuri Farm, the Deputy President of South Africa, David Mabuza, Azuri Farm in Mpumalanga, making his mark. The man who would be president should anything stop Cyril Ramaphosa from becoming the president in the case that they win.
Not only will he become president should anything stop Ramaphosa, evidence that we have now is that every deputy president has become president eventually. So if past results are anything to go by, as we say in sport, he is likely to become our next president should the ANC win, and the expectation is that the ANC should win.
The people that we've been following this morning, David Mabuza, Umntwana kaPhindangene, Mmusi Maimane, Julius Malema, are people who are supposed to take South Africa into what Cyril Ramaphosa would call his new dawn, into the next phase of South Africa's democracy. We've had a quarter, 25 years of democracy, a quarter of a century, and now we're supposed to progress forward. Where are they going to take us?
Well, I don't think you should include Umntwana kaPhindangene in terms of taking South Africa into the future. You should refer to him in terms of the contribution he has made until now. But I don't see him becoming the president for the next 10 years. Okay, hold
on to that thought. Let's go to Azuri Farm. Tumelo Machoho is there.
Well, the deputy president just The Deputy President just voted right now at Azuri farm here outside Barberton in Mpumalanga. He's about to speak to the media right now, so let's just listen into the Deputy President.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Okay, ready?
So I'm talking to all of you here.
Yes, that you can.
Okay.
A bit more efficient.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ready? Mr. Deputy President, can you give us an indication you voted now? What was the process like?
Very good. Very good. I think IEC is organized. The voting is smooth. And they explain to you how you should vote. I mean the process. So it's simple, easy. And I voted.
How do you feel right now after voting, Mr. President? And do you think that, talk to us about the importance of voting?
I feel very good. I can't help it but to bring back all those memories, 25 years of our freedom. Our democracy is maturing. I think we're doing well as a country. If all of us can respect voting and understand that whatever we do, this is the only way to change a government. People can express their will through the ballot. You rather affirm or not vote for a party. So in this case, the people of South Africa are really maturing. They understand the process. They don't need to be persuaded that much to go and vote. But of course, some were saying, we don't see change, we don't see that. But this is the only way that you can express your feeling.
The ANC has been going through a difficult period. How optimistic are you that the party will emerge victorious?
Well, we have been through a very hectic campaign, crisscrossing the country. I can tell that the mood is okay. Yeah, the ANC is going to win. No doubt about it. And I'm sure you people asking me this question, you know very well. You have seen for yourself that we still enjoy relative support with all our challenges. Of course, there are achievements in between. Thus, it's interwoven, challenges and achievements. But the journey continues.
And do you maybe have a message for those who haven't voted or those who are still undecided, especially the youth?
Well, to our young people, to our children, it's important to go and vote. This right to vote did not just come free in our case as South Africa. People struggled, people died, people were jailed for this right to vote. So let's make use of this right to express our views and how we want to shape our country. Very important. Our young people must go out there and vote. Vote for the party that you think will make a difference in your life.
To young people, because this is a new generation, and the generation will suffer more frustrations, especially not getting jobs, joblessness in particular. And I've said to them that we did not abandon hope. When we were going through the dark tunnel during the apartheid era, we never abandoned hope. And that in any case, the future is theirs. Our future, they are our future. And that if they don't vote, no one is going to do it for them. I'm sure they have a right to be angry and frustrated, because every year there are bombarded with all promises which are never fulfilled even if the next election comes. So they have everything to be angry and frustrated. But nevertheless, I appeal to them. As an old man, I appeal to them that this is their future and that no one can do it for them. They cannot do it for themselves.
Shenge, in some areas, there's been some disruption of voting process. What can you say about that?
Well, actually, you're touching on a matter which worries me very much, because yesterday I got all sorts of rumors about some planned shenanigans, and I think that that's the only thing that worries me about the election, because at every election that we've had, there have always been shenanigans. As you ask me, yes, I'm very worried about that. Just now, at Gozondela, an old lady who was going to vote, who was trying to vote there, found that she had voted already. Today, this morning, this is a good example now of what is going on. In this highly contested election, the likelihood of electoral fraud is a certainty. That's a certainty. If the IFE knows that from 25 years of experience in elections and by-election, that our opponents are willing to manipulate the outcome. We have brought many such cases to the attention of the Electoral Commission of South Africa, for we believe that any vote manipulation must be reported, investigated, and addressed. So we therefore take very seriously the rumors that the ANC is hiring quantum taxes to transport foreign nationals to Zululand to post votes. It is difficult to see this as a wild allegation. When I saw with my own eyes, when they did a similar thing in Mutu, quantums arrived there with people from Durban during a by-election. In that case, they filled buses with people from Durban to vote in Mutu. In that highly contested by-election, I'm sure you remember, during that they attempted to beat us by doing so. That attempt of electoral fraud was exposed and was prevented. Now, with this latest allegation, I've reported all the information we have to the chairperson last night, Mr. Glenn Mashinini, and he has committed to raise it with the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Sai Mamawolo. I felt, however, that voters needed to be alerted so that everyone visiting a voting station today will be vigilant and watch for any evidence of fraud. Should you see or hear anything untoward, we urge you to report it immediately to an electoral party or to the police. Already we have heard from voters who cast special vote yesterday that the ink used on their thumb simply wiped right off immediately. This was reported in both Verulam and Amajuba in KwaZulu-Natal. We urge the IEC to take all the allegations very seriously and to investigate them without delay. The IEC respects the heavy responsibility which is cast upon the IEC at this crucial stage of our democratic process, and we support the Commission in fulfilling its constitutional responsibility. We'll do everything.
Well, another former president that's casting their vote today, Evia de Klerk, and let's go there live.
If the ANC wins and President Ramaphosa keeps his promises, things will get better. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Pardon me, sorry, they gripping me. Open, watch me.
Yep.
My back.
Gotcha.
All right, a very important day. And just before we go to break, just tell me about the body language of David Mabuza, seeming a bit overwhelmed, but also very presidential.
No, it's his nature. This is his style. I mean, David Mabuza has never been a person who gestures too much. I have never seen him dance half as much as the former president used to dance. He is laid back, but he is the architect of the unity narrative in the ANC. And you can't take that away from him. They call him the cat. I don't know whether that is flattering or not. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Tiniko Maluleke. He will stay with me for more analysis, but let's take a break for now.
We do not just speak, we let every voice in our nation find full expression in language and in culture. We do not just teach, we empower all people with education. We do not just bring you the news, we place you where the news is happening. We do not just entertain, we take you on journeys. We do not just broadcast sport, we create an arena for sporting heroes to inspire you. Ours is not just a job, it's a calling to ensure that everyone in our nation is informed, educated, and entertained. We're able to do this because you do your part. SABC TV licenses, it's all made possible by you.
We've seen that Brent crude oil rise about 30% this year alone.
Brent crude that's going steadily firmer speaks to a global economy that's in good shape. What we don't want to see are supply interruptions or sudden spikes.
The Bank of Athens has become Grow Bank. It plans to be a bank using digital and personable relations with its customers in the agricultural and food value chain space.
We're a lucky bank in that we are small. We're already working with artificial intelligence to allow us to manage our customer data.
Agriculture is a business. If we're going to take people, millions of them out of poverty, we've got to turn agriculture into a mega sector that works for everybody.
Reporter Sipho Stearman. Sipho, thank you very much indeed. What are they protesting about?
Well, they're talking about their living conditions, that they don't have clean drinking water, they don't have proper toilets, they don't have proper housing.
Lopang, tell us what's happening where you are.
Early this morning, one classroom was set alight at the school. Reptiles are creeping into the classrooms like snakes.
Residents are saying that they've been failed by the Mpumalanga municipality.
This is what you see. People are angry. Let the municipal manager go.
This is the SABC News Channel, independent and impartial.
When news happens around the world, we will bring it to you. We will keep you informed. Each day, every day, our news team digs deeper, getting all the facts to provide comprehensive reports to what's important to you. We cover all corners of the globe. SABC News, independent and impartial.
I use my name first and foremost. That's all I heard, and from using the name I got a small loan of 8,000 rand.
I remember there is a time la sa zama kumfunela umsebenzi.
A very good morning to you. My name is Blaine Herman. Indeed, it is an important day in South Africa. Election Day, the 8th of May 2019. Thank you, as always, for continuing to stay with SABC, and a warm welcome to our SABC2 viewers. SA Decides 2019. South African voters are once again demonstrating their commitment to keep democracy working in this country, as you've been seeing for the better part of the morning. SABC News is ready to bring you all the latest updates on elections 2019 across our television, radio and digital platforms, including the very, very fancy SABC News mobile app. Now, we have reporting teams fanned out across the country, so you can be rest assured that we have all the angles covered during our rolling coverage of South Africa's 6th democratic, national and provincial election. So indeed, excitement is no doubt palpable here in Johannesburg, as well as the National Results Operations Center. As you can see, we've been following some of the prominent people that are voting here in South Africa. We've seen a number of them, and currently you're watching F.W. de Klerk, the former president, F.W. de Klerk, casting his votes. We did see the IFP leader, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, as well a little earlier on. He cast his vote in Ulundi in KwaZulu-Natal, but we're watching now visuals from Cape Town, I understand, the Western Cape. F.W. de Klerk casting the all-important vote. We're also monitoring the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. These are live visuals from Soweto. He will be casting his vote very, very shortly at the Hitikani Primary School in Soweto, to be precise. All right, we understand that we're going now to Gwedimantashe, the minister who's currently speaking. Let's try to dip in and see what he has to say. All right, I'm told we don't have any audio there. When we try to establish audio, we will try and bring you those visuals live. But we are monitoring the visual from Soweto when the president does cast his all-important vote. Remember, he released this message yesterday encouraging South Africans to go out there and vote. It is indeed your right to vote. So we will be monitoring that scene as well. All right, let's further this conversation now and bring in somebody that knows the exact mechanics of how this election works. He's been, well, he was with the IEC for almost 20 years. I'm talking about Terry Tselane. He's now the executive chair of the Institute Election Management Services in Africa. Terry, thank you very much indeed for your time. From what you've seen so far, we had special votes on Monday, Tuesday, now the big day when majority of South Africans are going to vote, cast their votes. 26.7 million people eligible to cast their votes. We'll see the turnout at the end of the day, but what's your impression so far?
Well, the election is really a very massive operation, and as you indicated earlier, it started with the special votes with those who are abroad, and then after that it was the 6th and 7th now when the attention was given to those who are living in South Africa. So it's a massive operation, but the special votes provides the Commission with an opportunity to test the systems. And yes, there will be glitches here and there, but then the officials of the organization will be able to rectify that. On a day like this, I mean, obviously in the morning, there are going to be quite a number of areas where there'll be challenges, but the situation should stabilize by lunchtime.
Just tell us some of the challenges that comes with reaching a point of readiness as we are currently.
The integrity of the election is dependent on 4 factors. And then it is these 4 factors that the Commission always has to focus on in order to make sure that we've got free and fair elections. The first aspect refers to the voters' roll. You are aware that going into these elections, there were certain defects that were identified in the current voters' roll. Now there are certain mechanisms that have been put in place in order to deal with those defects.
Terry, stand by. I just want to bring in you live visuals from Soweto, where we understand that the President of South Africa and the President of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, is in Soweto, where he will be casting his vote. As you can see, a media scrum, no doubt, when you follow prominent people in South Africa. We've seen it in other areas as well, but this is the scenes from Soweto, where the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is casting his vote. It's called the Hitikani Primary School. We expect him to cast his vote at around 11 o'clock, so slightly late. It's an area where the President spent most of his earlier life in Soweto. You remember yesterday he released this message encouraging eligible voters to go out and you know, make their mark, and for the numbers to participate in this, the 6th democratic national and provincial elections. He underscored his message to the same effect, I guess it was, for the 2019 State of the Nation address, where he said that as part of our celebration for 25 years of freedom and democracy, this election is an important milestone. Our senior reporter Mzwandile Mbeje is live for us in Soweto. Mzwai, what are you seeing? What are you witnessing there?
Oh, well, Blaine, the president is already here. This is the place, as you've indicated earlier, where he grew up. This is the community that knows him best. And he decided to take a bit of a walk, Blaine, I guess to remember those days when he used to still be a child of this place. And then what he will do is that he will then walk in and, of course, go to the queue like anyone else who is here and get his chance and vote like any South African. And then from there, we expect him to say something. He is the head of state. He probably will need to encourage people to go out there and vote and perhaps give a bit of an update if he feels like there are issues that he needs to address the nation on. Indeed, the crowds are gathered here, which is very interesting. I mean, even the clouds, by the way, it looks like it can rain any minute. Yeah, so it looks quite threatening, but we'll see. The spirit of the people is not deterred at all, Blaine.
Yeah, he did mention that citizens have a duty to exercise their right, this hard-fought right to vote. Just describe for us the mood of the people, and when he did come to the township of Soweto, what was the reaction?
Well, Blaine, I think as you can imagine, people are extremely excited here. The mood is very festive because they see one of their own come here, one of their own who's the #1 citizen in the country. Really, they feel, I guess, a special group of people. Perhaps you can't blame them. I mean, if you, in your neighborhood, have produced the president of the country, who can blame you, Blaine? So they are very excited. I mean, they've been here very early. They've been queuing. They've been voting. They've been expressing their happiness. Of course, all those issues really that touch other people, all those issues that they are complaining about, they feel they can perhaps have someone they can directly raise the issues to someone they know. I think that's why when we were speaking to some of the people earlier, they were basically saying he's always been the president in their view because of the leadership that he's been exercising in the area when he grew up, the various structures that he was taking part in. So that's the feeling really that I got when I spoke to a number of people. So you'd understand there's a bit of pushing and shoving here because there's a lot of media, international and local as well, Blaine, which is very interested in this president.
We do see the IEC's Glenn Mashinini there in shot as well.
By the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, who happens to be the Premier of Gauteng, again David Makura.
Mzwai, earlier on,
very important because Gauteng. Yes, Blaine?
Sorry, Mzwai, to interject, but earlier on I understand that you had a bit of a chat with the family of Sharaz Mohammed, who was really interested in engaging with the president. We'll remember that Sharaz was abducted in 2017 in Syria, and there was this ransom now of about $1.5 million, I understand, that's being asked for. What was their reaction? It was a very emotional scene earlier on.
Blaine, they are really pinning their hopes on the president. The $1.5 million, it's quite a lot of money, and if you convert that into South African rands, it's quite a lot of money. So they can't raise it, so they say they would love to hear the president, what sort of assistance he can give. He hasn't spoken to them yet, and then we hope that when he comes out, they will be able to have that opportunity to speak to him, and then we can hear what is it that he will say.
So take us through the process now that the president has arrived. So is he going to be ushered straight into the voting booth, or is he going to wait in the line?
As you can see, that scramble lane, he is going to queue, as that's the information we are given. He's going to queue and wait his turn, like every South African, and then from there he goes inside to then cast his ballot, and then after that he will then come out and perhaps make a short statement. And then the verification process will apply to him as well. It doesn't matter that perhaps his face is on the ballot, so he will have to comply with all the rules and all the laws of South Africa as the #1 citizen. So he's expected to uphold just about everything that is happening. So he will go there, they check his details, and then he goes and casts his ballot. I mean, many people will think it's obvious what he's going to vote for. That may be true, but he will still do it secretly because that's what is required.
And so I stand by. We'll keep these visuals on your screen. I want to bring in Terry Tselane now with regards to the whole process. Mr. Tselane, you no doubt know this process, how it works. Is it, we heard from David Mabuza earlier on praising the IEC. Do you share his sentiment as well?
Of course, the organization has got now 220,000 people with electoral experience. Those are the people who will make sure that at the voting station level things move smoothly. Of course, there'll be hiccups here and there, but overall, I think the organization does have the machinery that is likely to offer the South African a proper election.
Look, we have a record number of political parties that are contesting at a national level. We have 48 political parties that are contesting at this level. We earlier saw a visual, we were talking about it earlier on, when the former president, Jacob Zuma, was voting, how long that list is. Do you see that coming with its own challenges as well? And do you think people will understand it, this long ballot? And do you anticipate a lot of spoiled ballots maybe because of some confusion?
Well, I indicated earlier that this high number of political parties participating in the elections was likely to have operational difficulties and challenges for the Commission and for its staff. And then one of the things that you have mentioned, and I agree with you that it may also cause confusion for some who may not really be familiar with the process, and therefore it is possible that we will end up with a slightly higher number of spoiled ballots compared to the previous years.
Just tell us about some of the security measures at voting stations and around voting stations, and what does the law in terms of the Electoral Act say about protests at this time?
At the voting station level, the person who's got the powers is the presiding officer. The law empowers the presiding officer to take control of a demarcated area that the presiding officer has made. And then everything basically falls into the hands of the presiding officer. Now, because of the collaboration between the Electoral Commission and the law enforcement agencies, in areas where there are possibilities of disruption, there is always that liaison where you will find the presence of the security forces. But the operations of the voting station is entirely in the hands of a presiding officer. As you may be aware that the Commission is an independent institution governed by Chapter 9 of the Constitution. Therefore, it will not abdicate its responsibility in terms of management of the process at that level.
If somebody is sitting at home now and watching this broadcast and thinking, okay, I'm going to go out there just now and cast my vote, can I use party regalia in the lines and while voting? Can they?
Yep, the general electorate can wear whatever they want. If you want to wear your party regalia or apparel, there is nothing that stops you from doing so. The only people who are prohibited from wearing party regalia are the party agents at the voting station. They will get armbands that will indicate that they are party agents, and there is also something that will indicate which political parties they represent.
Yeah. In terms of the process and our voting way, we see other countries such as Namibia, we see countries like the DRC that are going the route of electronic voting. Why not here in South Africa?
It is something that I've been advocating for quite some time, to say that the current situation is unsustainable. I believe the time has come in South Africa for us to begin to explore electronic voting. And the Commission, many years ago, convened a conference on electronic voting, and then also developed a desktop study on electronic voting. But unfortunately, the processes have not actually been moving with speed, and I think now that time has come, particularly when you see the number of the political parties that are now participating not only at the national level, but also at provincial level. You may be aware that Northwest, in fact, is the highest, with 81% increase in provincial ballots, and with Mpumalanga and Free State, it's standing at 75%. So if this trend continues, then it is going to be very, very difficult for the Commission to continue operating using the manual system. So it is one of the issues that would have to be explored.
Let's just look at some of the challenges being experienced in this current election with regards to something like the stamps on the ballot papers. What are the possible reasons of a ballot paper not being stamped?
Well, I attribute that largely to training. It is possible that the training processes were rushed, and some of the officials of the Commission are not familiar with what's supposed to be happening at that level. So it is going to be important for the Commission to keep on emphasizing to its officials to deal with the issues in a particular way. Normally, on a day like this, after you have identified all the issues, the Commission will then send message to all its officials to treat certain things that have been identified in a particular way. So the issue of a stamp in a ballot paper, it's quite critical, because a ballot paper that does not have a stamp, it's an invalid ballot, and it will not actually be counted. Well, it will be counted, but it will be counted as a spoiled ballot.
So if a voter goes into a booth and sees this not stamped, what do they do? Do they approach the presiding officer?
They've got to tell the presiding officer when they are receiving the ballot papers that they ensure that those ballot papers do have a stamp.
Yeah. There are about 189,000 volunteers who've been trained, recruited and trained by the IEC. From your experience with regards to the training, how rigorous is it?
The training is rigorous. I mean, there are manuals that the Commission would issue in order to use them for the purpose of training. But it also depends on the time frames that the Commission has for the purpose of doing this. So training is there, and then I think another advantage in most instances is that the majority of people who are working at the voting station are people who are already familiar with the processes, in the sense that they've participated in the process before.
The President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is in Soweto casting his vote. He's inside this primary school in Soweto. Terry, you know this process so well, and let's use maybe the President as a case study to illustrate this process. What is currently happening now?
The first point where the President arrived, it was ushered by that official who's a queue hawker. That queue hawker will lead the President to the voters' roll officer. The voters' roll officer will check the details of a voter on the voters' roll, whether that person is registered or not. And then from there, they're going to scratch the name to indicate that the person has now participated in the process. And next to the voters' roll officer, there is an inker who is going to apply an ink on the left thumb, and immediately after that, the person who's going to be the next station is the ballot paper issuer, who's going to issue those two ballots, one representing national ballot and the other one the provincial election. So immediately after that, now you will see him going into a ballot booth. In that ballot booth, that's where now in secrecy is going to choose a political party that he thinks best represents his interest. And then after that, he will have to deposit those two ballots into the ballot papers. There will be two ballot boxes. There'll be two ballot boxes, one representing provincial ballots and the other one representing national ballots. And then after that, then he will be ushered out and he would have concluded the voting process.
We are keeping a close eye on the situation in Soweto. Our reporter Mzondile Mbeche is also there, so he's going to give us an indication when the president is about to cast his vote as well as speak to the media. Something that will be in this process as well is to obtain people's home addresses, something that has been preoccupying the IEC's over the last 3 years, I think, is to get these addresses on the voters' roll. I understand that they have full addresses of about 85% now. So my understanding is that before, if your address is not captured, before you issued a ballot paper, you will be asked to provide your address.
Absolutely. But perhaps before I deal with that, there is a critical element that I also wanted to mention. And it is that at the voting station, there is also a scanner. Now, remember that these elections are such that a person can basically vote at any voting station. So the officials of the commission would have to establish and ascertain that the person is actually registered, and the scanner is going to be a critical element in the process.
Terry, stand by. I want to go back now to Soweto. Mzondile Mbeche is live for us. They're covering this vote by the president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Mzwai, what are you witnessing?
Well, the president is already inside the voting station. He is about to cast his ballot. He has done his verifications plain. So he is actually, as we speak, voting. Obviously, we can't capture that because it's a secret vote. But the media interest is so huge, plain. And of course, there's a lot of pushing and shoving. Perhaps some of the pictures may not be that great, because of the amount of people that are here and the amount of media, both local and international. We see him, I think he's just concluded. He's busy, I think, folding his paper, like all South Africans do. With a broad smile, you can see that there's an element of excitement. And then he's dropping in that ballot into the box. Wow, that's the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, casting his ballot there as a citizen of this country. And of course, currently, he holds that position of being characterized as the #1 citizen of South Africa. We expect that from here, Blaine, he will go out and make some statement, perhaps what he has been observing, because he has had a bit of benefit in terms of the picture of the country, what he has seen, what is observed, and he will then be speaking to the nation. We will be able to capture all of that. And there are also observers, Blaine. I saw the leader of the AU observer mission is the former president of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete. So we did speak to him earlier, saying he was very encouraged by what he was seeing here. He's getting ready to exit the polling station, and then I think from here, that is Tanzania. Yes, Jakaya Kikwete is obviously, of course, the former president of Tanzania, yes. I think they are preparing him to leave the voting station. You can imagine all other activities temporarily stopped because of the high volume of activity that has been happening inside here. But the normal voting process will continue as soon as he exits. He is actually accompanied by the First Lady, Dr. Tsepo Matsepe, the wife of the President. Well, Blaine, perhaps we'll hand back to you momentarily as we try also to make our way out so that we are able to also capture him outside.
All right, Mzwai, thank you very much indeed. We'll give you some time to get set up to get this address by the President of South Africa and the President of the ANC. The ANC has had 13 presidents in its 107-year history. Terry Tsilani is still with us. Terry, you heard Mzwai talking about the observers and the observer missions that are present here in South Africa. I saw a report that there's about no less than 66 observer missions that have been accredited by the IEC. Some say it's around 70. My colleague Sophie Mokoena did a report earlier on, and I heard one of the observers saying that how impressed he was about, here in South Africa, where people were campaigning freely in their, be it ANC, DA, EFF T-shirts, and you were saying, well, is this South Africa? Is this Africa? Or is this Europe, How important are observer missions here?
The observer missions are very, very important. I was actually leading the observer mission of the African Union in the Gambia, and I've participated in quite a number of the observer missions. And then my organization, IMSA, was also training some of the domestic observers to participate in this election. So they are very, very important. Now, I have indicated that in terms of the system is structured in such a way that you've got elements of accountability as well as transparency. So the observers are there and the party agents basically to ensure the integrity of the process. They've got to follow all the processes that are there in the value chain to make sure that nothing is compromised in the process. There is sometimes a weakness with some of the observers, as you may be aware. In Tanzania, they declared the results of one of its islands to have been free and fair, all of them. And then after that, Tanzania decided to nullify those elections. But also you saw in Kenya previously where they declared the elections free and fair, and it is only afterwards that those results were nullified by the court. So they have a major responsibility, and they must be able to follow a vote before it is actually cast until it is transmitted and translated into a seat.
We have missions, observer missions from around the world. Do they have separate guidelines, each mission?
Yeah, they're all using different frameworks. However, there are certain instruments that are there in law that they're supposed to be used. The African Union has got a framework, there's got a document that they're using for the purpose of assessment of the integrity of the elections. And SADC also has got, and the Electoral Commission's Forum of the region also has got its own framework that it is using.
Terry, stand by. I think the President is about to speak in Soweto. Let's listen in.
And it's yours. It had to be yours. How are you? Are you well? Good to see you. Good to see you all. Sawubona.
Are you confident, Mr. President?
I'm excitingly confident. The response of our people to voting is just amazing. The nation and our people are energized to cast their vote, and they can see that with their vote, they are heralding a new dawn, a new beginning, a period of renewal. And it's also a period of hope. The confidence that is just being emitted by our people is just amazing. This is a vote that reminds us of 1994, because in 1994, our people were just as excited as this, because they were heralding a new period, a new future for our country. And today, this is what I am also picking up. Our people are really excited about what lies tomorrow, and they want to vote for a government that is going to serve them, that is going to address their needs, their aspirations, and they have great confidence that we will be able to do so. So I am truly humbled by the turnout that I'm seeing here and the excitement that one can feel. There's a great vibe, and it's a vibe for democracy. It's a vote also for our democratic system that we've been building over the past 25 years. So 25 years later, we still have a nation that is brimming with confidence and excitement about casting their vote. And today, I will go to sleep very peacefully, like I did last night, but this has really come as an energy booster for me, and we hope that the outcome will be in line with what our people wish to see. And what they really wish to see is to see a South Africa that's working. They want their representatives, whom they are voting for here today, to be the caliber of representatives that's going to work for them and deepen democracy, but also broaden service delivery. This election has largely been about local issues and less so about the national issues. The national issues have been about jobs, and we are committed that we are going to embark on a process of growing our economy, of attracting investment, and the outcome of this election will be a major boost to also investors who will want to look at South Africa differently and not only invest their money here, but also invest their confidence. So this vote is about confidence. It's about the future, and it is about us who are going to be elected to work a lot harder, much harder than we have in the past, to realize the ideals, the wishes, and the hopes of our people. So this, for me, is like a rocket booster for democracy, and we are going to build a great country, because we will be doing so standing on the shoulders of our people. The people who are all standing here, I'm going to climb their shoulders and stand on their shoulders so that I can see far ahead, so that I can do exactly what they would like us to do. This, for me, is fantastic, and thank you very much for all coming here to see this great demonstration of a democratic hope for the future by our people.
Mr. President, you are speaking as if we've won the elections already. Is
Your
that
message
a winning speech?
Well, I'm confident.
Your message for the poor, Mr. President, since the early 2000s.
Yes. Yeah, the people who are here are so confident about the certainty of the vote that they are going to cast, and they have already cast. And of course, what this vote will mean will be addressing the needs of poor people. The challenges that we face in our country are unemployment, inequality, and poverty. We've got grinding poverty in our country, much as we have done a lot over the past 25 years to reduce the ravages of poverty. Inequality remains, and unemployment is still high. So the clear mandate we're going to get out of this election is to speed up the process of growing our economy on an inclusive basis, so that we can address the plight and the needs of poor people in our country. The mandate that we are getting here is we must hasten service delivery. And I've been saying that I don't want any further excuses. I just want us to work and implementing our policies and doing what is right by our people. is going to be my overriding concern, day in and day out.
Say they've heard all these promises before
Yes.
from the ANC, and all they've had is a quarter of a century
Yes.
of disappointment. Why this time should they believe you?
We are disturbing our
Our people need to believe us because over the 25 years, we have achieved a great deal. The lives of our people have changed very positively. But as I always say, we have not yet filled the glass. The glass is half full, it's not half empty. Only those who have eyes and ears can see that change has happened in our country. We've filled the glass to the halfway mark. What we are now saying is, we now know why we did not fill it to the full mark. Because we started deviating from the mandate that our people gave us. Corruption got into the way, patronage got into the way, and not focusing on the needs of our people got into the way. We now know what our weaknesses are. When I addressed the rally, our final rally on Sunday, I did say we know our mistakes, and we are sorry about the mistakes that we have made. And all over the country, whenever I have said that, our people are saying, yes, we accept what you're saying, largely also because it is only those who don't do anything who don't make mistakes. Now, we've been doing quite a lot. We've made mistakes, but we are sorry about those mistakes, and we are saying our people should reinvest their confidence in us, because now knowing where we've gone wrong, the commissions of inquiry that are ongoing are revealing a lot of what we did wrong. Now we're owning up to that, and we're saying we are going to correct the bad ways of the past.
What happens after the commission, Mr. President?
Well, after the commissions, the recommendations are going to be made by the commissions, but in the course of this process, there will be clear cases that need to be followed up, and the criminal justice institutions will follow those up. But after the commission, there will clearly be recommendations, and they will also be followed up. What we are saying is that never, never, never again must South Africa go through what we have gone through, where there is sleaze, where there's malfeasance, where there is rampant corruption. Because our people hate corruption. They don't appreciate corruption, and they know that corruption acts against their interests. It takes money out of their mouths, takes money out of service delivery. So we have learned our lesson, and we are now going to steam ahead to address the needs of our people. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, did you offer the EFF cabinet position?
Some people have been trying to locate people,
Yes.
stop people from voting. So as the head of state, what are you saying to all those people?
Well, I'm most concerned about those who are protesting, because when you protest and say you don't vote, you are basically saying, I don't want to have a voice. I'm closing my mouth. I'm closing even the ears of those who should listen. I'm closing their ears, I'm plugging their ears. Because it is only when you vote that your voice can be heard. It is only when you vote that those issues that you are concerned about can actually be addressed. And I've always said to our people who want to protest and not vote, I say, that is not the right way of raising your issues. Go and vote, and after voting then say, I voted because I want my issues to be addressed. So we are going forward, and we are going to address the needs of our people.
Mr. President, did you offer the EFF cabinet position?
No, we did not do so.
Did you offer in Nkosazana Dlamini's name at the deputy presidency?
No, the matter of the cabinet, I am dealing with it, and only I am dealing with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, and good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Shiraz Mohammed's
Thank you,
family
guys.
is here.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. President.
I'm sorry about all this. I didn't plan it. Okay, guys.
guys, please, let's stand still.
Please.
Okay, just hold on. Please, can you just wait 1 second before? Stop pulling your mics wherever you are. Just wait, please.
People just wait and be patient.
I think it's being pulled by like the crowd more than anyone else. Do you some help?
The bike.
We're explorers. We always have been. Endlessly curious. Always looking for answers. For new frontiers. For new stories. Because that is who we are. From script to screen. From yelling action to taking you on a journey. Radio producers. Script writers. On-air presenters. News reporters. Sports analysts. We spend late nights creating captivating storylines and earlier mornings keeping you informed, educated, and entertained. For us, it's not a job, it's a calling. We do this and more because you do your part. SABC TV licenses, made possible by you.
We've seen that Brent crude oil rise about 30% this year alone.
Brent crude that's going steadily firmer speaks to a global economy that's in good shape. What we don't want to see are supply interruptions or sudden spikes.
The Bank of Athens has become Grow Bank. It plans to be a bank using digital and personable relations with its customers in the agricultural and food value chain space.
We're a lucky bank in that we are small. We're already working with artificial intelligence to allow us to manage our customer data.
Agriculture is a business. If we're going to take people, millions of them out of poverty, we've got to turn agriculture into a mega sector that works for everybody.
Political parties have delivered their manifestos, and now it's time for you to make sense of it all. From campaigning to declarations.
Let's speak to the people on the ground.
We are sick of crime.
Interesting comments coming from the ground there.
SABC News delivers unrivaled, unrestrained coverage, giving you the platform to express your views.
I want more job opportunities.
SABC News will be live from all corners of the country. You will get expert analysis in all languages, party reactions, and the true story behind the numbers.
It's all about the numbers.
Across 4 TV stations, 19 radio stations, and online platforms. SA Decides 2019. SABC News. Independent, impartial.
Welcome back. You're watching SA Decides 2019 on SABC News. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Just before we went to break, you heard President Cyril Ramaphosa there speaking outside after he voted in Soweto. Some of the things he said, he called this process a rocket booster of democracy. And he also was speaking about protesters who want to abstain from voting, saying that he says, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. And he also spoke, I heard a question there being thrown in, what's Mr. President, with regards to the cabinet? And he says he's dealing with the cabinet and only he is dealing with the cabinet. With regards to the voter participation, remember turnout. When we use the term turnout, that can only be calculated after the polls close, and that's happening at 9 o'clock or so. And so he said he's humbled by voter participation, and the outcome of these elections will be a major boost for investors. Talking about a vote is about the confidence of the future of South Africa. Let's just talk a bit about the outcome and how do we get to this outcome. Terry Tilani is still with us. Terry, with regards to the results system, I understand there's something called a double capture system. Just tell us briefly about that.
Yeah, let's follow the results from the voting station. Remember that immediately after voting, counting begins. And after counting, there is a result slip that is filled indicating the performance of various political parties. That result slip is taken to a municipal office where information is going to be captured into the system. Now, there are two processes that are going to be used. One is that, firstly, you capture the information. You capture the information into the system and you transmit it. The result slip is you scan it. And then after that information is also captured into the system.
Terry, sorry, I'm just being told that we have to wrap up very quickly. Thank you very much indeed for your time. That was Terry Selani, Executive Chair of the Institute Election Management Services in Africa. Okay, we're going to take you now to the NROC, the National Results Operations Center. I understand there's a media briefing that's about to happen, so let's listen in.
Thank you, Blaine. In fact, as you come to us, there are voices in the background of that IEC media briefing about to start. But before we go there, we're going to go back to Soweto briefly. Mzwai Mbeje, the president, at pains to explain that he didn't plan for all these crowds to come out today. What are the people saying prompted them to come through?
Well, Desiree, people are extremely excited because they are saying one of their own is coming to vote here and he is the president of the country. So that excitement was basically natural, and I think perhaps he's right if he says he didn't plan anything. As soon as he got here, remember, he was dropped off about 200 meters away, and then he did walk so that his people really could be able to interact with him. And I think as he was walking through the township, and then people got so excited, and of course they decided to wait for him, and then he cast his ballot, and then they were very happy afterwards.
Thank you so much, Mzwai Mbeje. We're going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, the IEC briefing has just started. The electoral officer, the chief electoral officer, Simon Mabulu, is at the podium. Let's go there live.
Chairperson, you
wait impatiently to vote at voting stations across the country. The Electoral Commission assures voters that adequate supplies of all materials, including more than 60 million ballot papers, are available, and every voter will be assisted to vote. Traditionally, voting queues peak early as voters often seek to vote first thing during the day. As always, with an election of this magnitude, there are some challenges reported, including instances where voting officials arrived late for duty and where materials were delayed. This had all been resolved by 9 o'clock this morning. The Electoral Commission is said to report the death of a deputy presiding officer in the Eastern Cape due to illness overnight and extends its condolences to the family. The Commission also received reports of an elderly voter who apparently died in a voting station in Elandspoort, the Intswani, early today, and accordingly we extend the Commission's commiserations with the family. Furthermore, a vehicle accident involving election staff was reported in the Eastern Cape, but fortunately no serious injuries are reported. A number of challenges relating to access to voting stations due to trenches dug across access roads as part of protest action were reported. But in most cases, the South African Police Services, supported by the Department of Transport, municipal services, were on standby to quickly resolve these issues. Hence, the high percentage of voting stations that were operational already by 7 o'clock this morning. By 11:30, only 17 voting stations remained unopened due to access challenges. 14 of these are in the southern coast in KwaZulu-Natal. The Commission is working very closely with security agencies supported by government departments to open these stations as soon as possible and as soon as it is safe for voters and staff to make their passage to the stations. Inclement weather was reported through the southern parts of the country, including parts of the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and the Free State, where cold conditions and rain are reported. However, the weather was not so bad as to affect the voting operations. The Electoral Commission has also noted media and social media reports of voters who have attempted or apparently been able to remove the indelible ink on their thumbs. The indelible ink is one of a number of security checks and safeguards built into an election process. But the Commission wishes to remind all voters that any attempt to undermine the integrity of the electoral process, including attempting to remove the indelible ink, constitute an electoral offense which is punishable upon conviction by sentence of 10 years in jail. The Electoral Commission wishes to thank voters who already responded to the call to vote and appeals to all remaining voters to make their way to voting stations before they close at 9 tonight. Today is your turn to make your voice heard and to support South Africa's electoral democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, CEO. Let me open the floor for questions. Introduce yourself and then pose the question. I already have 3 hands at the back and then 1 in front. I've got 3 at the back here. Your name and your question, please.
Hi, my name is Velim Tiane from SABC. I would like to know that we have seen some of the videos of the ballot boxes that have been moved around, whether from the voting stations or to voting stations without any police escort. What does IEC has to say about that?
Okay.
Good afternoon, Anton Meyer from Pretoria FM. Just on those, on the 17 voting stations that have not opened yet, as at 11:30. Would you open these stations or keep it open for longer after 9 o'clock tonight, given the fact that they didn't open at 7? Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Nitekani Magwedze, Newsroom Africa. We understand there are some employers who didn't allow the employees to go and vote. Are you aware of this? Are you following it up? Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a mic, please, in front? Thank you. There's a hand here. The mic is not working.
No, Mutlong from Jacaranda. Oscar, I would just like to ask that Mama Bolo, there have been reports of officials not stamping the ballots properly. We just want to know were they given proper training ahead of the elections, and what will happen to those votes, to those ballots that were not stamped properly, because one caller on radio said that he was given 2 ballots and the back of the other ballot was stamped, but the one he made a cross on was not stamped, and is something that was later identified. So what happens in that case when a situation is like that? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me allow the IEC team to respond to these questions before we take last round of questions. Ntate Mamabulo.
Okay. The videos have to be investigated to determine their veracity. You'll understand that social media does present us with opportunities to communicate instantaneously, very inexpensively. Yet at the same time, it does present possibilities of disinformation. So each case has got to be evaluated for veracity, and if the facts are established, those ballots affected will be quarantined, and the commission will then have to decide whether to include them in the count or not. In fact, as regards the Benoni situation where a party agent assisted a voting official to transfer ballots from the special voting bag into the ballot box, we've quarantined those ballots. The affected official has been discharged, and so on. The same with the case in Emelo. The area manager and the deputy presiding officer have been relieved of their duties precisely because of the manner in which they handled the transfer of the special voting ballots from the bag transferred into the ballot box. You don't do it normally from the back of the van. You do it in the voting station in front of party agents. The 17 stations, we will open them. In fact, as we speak, some of them may have already been opened. We will make an assessment of how the voting process goes, the number of people who have already voted by 9, and the commission is empowered in terms of the law to extend voting hours in the interest of free and fair election. But that determination will be based on a factual analysis of the number of persons who have already voted or are likely to vote by 9 o'clock. Yes, we have received the complaints that certain employers, particularly in the retail sector, were refusing to make arrangements for voters to go vote. We have written a response and said, be mindful that this is a public holiday. The voters have a constitutional right that they need to express today, and encouraged those employers to make suitable arrangements to allow staff to go and vote. If, despite that intervention, there are still problems that persist, we are able to intervene through our legal processes to ensure that every single person who is on the roll is afforded the opportunity to go record their political choice. The officials not stamping the back of the ballots, I think we said so yesterday that we want voters to be vigilant about that fact. And we want to reiterate that point, that check your ballots to ensure that they've been stamped at the back. Because that stamping is an important validation measure which builds into the integrity of the whole electoral process. Now, the Commission will consider the matter and take appropriate decisions before counting commences when the voting stations close. But the idea is for us to get the message out there that be vigilant, ensure that your ballot papers are stamped at the back to ensure that your vote counts. I think we've dealt with it. Were staff trained? Indeed, they were trained. We've started with our training process last year in November already, and people went through different modules of training, and our expectation was that people will be competent in how they administer the processes. Not only were they trained, they also had to do a competency assessment, and you had to realize a certain competency level for you to assume duty, especially as deputy presiding officer and presiding officer. Now, to the extent that there are aberrations, one can expect them when you deal with a project of this magnitude, where you're dealing with 189,000 officials across 22,924 voting stations.
Thank you so much. Looks like there are no other hands of clarity, or then they go up. All right. Let's take the last round of questions before we wrap up this afternoon's press briefing. I've got two at the back, I've got one in front.
Anton Meyer again from Pretoria FM. People say they still receive SMS messages from political parties telling them to go and vote. And they are asking if it's allowed to still send these SMS messages on voting day. Can you just give us some clarity on if it's allowed and if these political parties who are sending the SMSs are maybe, I don't know, doing it illegally? Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Anton.
Okay, my name is Tabiso Moss from SABC. I just want to find out from the IEC if it's aware about the disruption of voting processes in about 5 villages in Kagisano Molopo in the Northwest Province.
Thank you.
Hi,
Yes.
Annika Larson from ENCA. Just a quick question to check whether any voting stations had to be closed due to protest action, and if so, have they been reopened? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got one more hand there before the last one at the back. Okay, Ceci, can we have a mic?
Olula Mamakya from the SABC. It's a follow-up question on the SMS matter. I just want to know what's the law saying about politicians going to voting stations in their political regalia?
Good afternoon. My name is Aserin Lovu and I'm from Capital Live. I received a number of messages here from our reporters around the Pretoria North area, Region 1, specifically in Winterveld, Garangua, that they've been given one ballot paper. If it's not the national, it's a provincial. And I see again, even in a certain suburb that is at a Karel de Wet War School in Van der Weydt Park, is doing the same thing. So we just need to find clarity. What is it exactly that is happening with that matter? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me allow, I don't see any other. Is that the last hand? Oh, I'm seeing too many now. Okay. So, must I proceed to take 3 other questions? Yeah. Let me take 3 other questions before the panel responds. I've got 2 here and I've got 1 in the middle.
Lubabalo from CNBC Africa. There's a question that was posted on the on the WhatsApp group by my colleague Dierveld. He went to vote yesterday. We registered for the special vote, and there was no one at the voting station. And there were several other people who are police officers who also had to go back without voting. Secondly, on Anika's question on the voting stations that have been closed due to protest action, I understand that many of those voting stations that were reported this morning were in KZN that were closed due to that. Have there been any arrests that have been made?
All right.
Because when I spoke to the CEO last week, he said that it is outlawed to have protests today.
Okay, all right. Covered?
Hi, my name is Teddy from Rainbow FM. I'm asking about the issue of the scans, because in the polling station I went to vote, there was a challenge. They had only one scan and there were so many people. And so I'm asking, how many scans should the polling station have? If that one malfunctioned, then what's going to happen?
Okay.
Olanin Banjo at Power 98.7. I just have a question on, do we have an idea of how many objections have been raised? I know it's an early stage right now, but since we've had so many issues and some polling stations, do we have an idea how many objections have been raised by parties? Thank you.
All right, thank you. On that note, let me allow the CEO and the panel to deal with the various issues.
We deal with that.
With respect to scanners, there are over 32,000 scanners for 22,924 voting stations. So the allocation criteria is 1 per voting station, and a buffer at certain voting stations. If you had applied for a special vote, for instance, and we visited the house and you were not there yesterday when we came to administer the special vote, we can't go back to you. Similarly, if you had applied for a special vote at the voting station and for some reason you did not turn up, or our officials closed early, you don't forfeit your right. You can still come today to cast your ballot, so you don't lose your right to vote. The issue of instances where a single ballot was issued instead of 2, we will look at that. We'll like the details. Our colleagues who are monitoring the situation had not received reports to that effect. But of course, we would like to look into that. The party regalia, voters are allowed to wear party regalia when they go to vote. People who may not wear party regalia are party agents. Now, I've seen that parties have arranged T-shirts of the color of the party without the party logo. To the extent that there is no party insignia on the T-shirt, that it's allowed. Protest action, yes. In areas like Boyodi, Kakong, and so on, there is ongoing protest action. However, it has not affected the operations to a point where we have to close. Those voting stations are functional, despite the fact that there is protest activity in and around those communities. The South African Police Service is doing all it can to ensure that those protests are stopped and that those who are perpetuating them and impeding people's right to cast their ballots are investigated and hopefully arraigned for that behavior. So that will extend to Kagisano, Molopo area, where indeed there is ongoing protest action in the communities there. But it's not such that it has led to a point where stations had to close. SMS, we are guided by Section 108 of the Electoral Act, which says 2 things. Firstly, that organized political events are outlawed on election day. Now, what are organized political events? Marches, public meetings, rallies, activity like that. It's outlawed. The second component of political activity that is outlawed is that you may not canvass within the boundaries of the voting station. So you can do anything else anywhere except that in the voting station, no political campaigning whatsoever. And the boundaries are determined by the presiding officer in consultation with party agents, if present. So an SMS, therefore, is not a public march, it's not a rally, it's not a mass event, and therefore it is allowed to the extent that it's not an affront to Section 108 of the Electoral Act. The objections, 5 have been received so far. And obviously, we've got to deal with them before the election results are declared. I think I want us to have a sense of perspective. The problems that are reported in relation to the totality of the voting stations, it's a small proportion. Not many, very small. I mean, if 17 voting stations had not opened against 22,924, you know, the proportion of stations that are not open is very, very small. I don't want to say insignificant, but when one analyzes how the electoral process is unfolding, one has to have regard to the fact that it is this 17 against 22,000. Of course, the people who are registered in those 17 voting stations have to vote. They have to vote and will spare no effort working together with the South African police to ensure that those people do get the opportunity to vote, including a consideration whether we extend voting hours in those affected voting stations. But that's a decision for later. So our overriding message is the following. The voting process is proceeding well. South Africans are out there in their numbers. Nothing is going to dissuade them from recording their political choices. The Electoral Commission will facilitate the recordal of that political choice by affording them the opportunity to vote with sufficient material having been procured for that purpose. So there is no intractable challenge at the moment. Everyone is in the queues, people are staying the course, and everyone who's at the station will vote. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, this brings this press briefing to an end. The next one will be taking place at 5 p.m. this afternoon. Thank you once more. Let's go vote. Thank you very much.
But of course, we are in touch with the people in Sudan. And as you know, the military and the opposition forces are still engaged in negotiations about what to do about the transition. So we are following that very closely. And currently, the UN has got specific people that they've sent into Sudan. And as you know, we work with them, with the UN on this matter. So we'll wait for them to give us a report about what's happening. With regard to Malawi, you know that they are having elections there on the 21st of May. And so the Commonwealth asked me to lead their observer team to Malawi. And that's what we will do. And hoping that, like here in South Africa, we would have peaceful elections and elections that won't be contested afterwards, because they should be handled in a proper way. And hopefully that's what should happen in Malawi. And the Commonwealth have said to me, please, can you lead our team there and help the Malawians, work with them and so on, so that together we have an outcome which is credible and accepted to all of the people.
Okay. Mr. President, you're saying that hopefully the elections won't be contested here. Are you concerned at all at the number of isolated incidents of IEC ballot boxes that have been found so far, and the fact that the IEC has already acted against one official in Benoni who allowed a party agent to help with the transfer of special votes?
Yes, certainly. I mean, the incidents that I've had, the IEC has acted, I think, in a very good way, in an important way in terms of acting against those people who are working within the IEC who clearly have done something that is wrong. But I think we also need to pay tribute to the police service. Because I think in the incidents that I've heard of, the police service has also acted very quickly and very correctly in order to ensure that nothing goes wrong with regard to the elections. I think both the IEC and the police service have really behaved very well.
Who's next? Who's next?
Okay.
You previously called on the ANC. Do you not see this vote as endorsing the members who have since not been removed?
You see, you want us again to do something that's illegal. No, I'm not going to discuss any of the parties today because it's to campaign for or against. It's not allowed. And I think we need really to observe the law as far as these elections are concerned. And if they said the cut-off time is last night, midnight, to stop campaigning, I think we should all behave accordingly.
What would you say, President, to the incoming president?
Oof. No, but I think all of us are perfectly familiar with the aspirations of the people. These common demands that all of us South Africans have. People are very concerned about poverty, are concerned about unemployment, are concerned about all of these problems, inequality, etc. And therefore, I think whichever party gets elected, nationally or provincially, those parties have got a very heavy responsibility, practically to live up to the expectations of the people with regard to those matters. So that's what I would say to every president, anybody who's elected. That's why I was saying that I hope really the voters will apply their minds in terms of voting today, given this long list of parties that are contesting. Because once we elect whichever party, there's a lot that we expect of those parties. And they really have to deliver, because all of these things about poverty and so on, they are not inconsequential issues. I mean, if you see levels of poverty in the country, and you see really poor people, and you visit poor people, it really, you want to cry. So I think the obligation on the parties we elect is very heavy. Really, practically, actually, to address these issues, and not just put things in their manifestos and then do nothing afterwards. Thanks a lot. I hope all of you have voted. That's okay.
Thank you, President.
All right, Chiefs.
Out of the former President Thabo Mbeki voting, and now we in Lundi, I think, where the leader of the leader of the NFP, I think, Ms. Zanele Magwaza Msibi, is she about to vote or has she just voted? She's about to vote. There you see trickles of orange around the voting stations. That would be her members and her supporters. And Professor Atinyiko talking about this particular party and their fortunes earlier.
Yes, I think it's very good that she is out there and leading by example and showing that she's still there and she's still the leader, and she wants the party to succeed. These gestures may look fleeting, but they are actually very important. Yeah. They send very strong messages to members of the party, but also to South Africans. I mean, here we are, every conceivable leader that we know, we have seen voting today.
We've covered the full ambit this whole morning.
It's excellent advertisement for democracy. We couldn't ask for better.
Is it also a good example that she is showing intentions of succession within her party? Because more and more we've been seeing newer faces coming up to show representation in terms of the party.
It's actually an excellent thing, because as you and I know, succession is a bridge that many South African political parties are unable to cross. They stumble and fall and do all sorts of things on that bridge. So if she can navigate that bridge as well as she's indicating that she's doing,
her party may still survive.
Her party may still survive.
Yeah.
Because, as I say, this is the Waterloo of many a new South African political party. Mochabseki Mpumalanga.
The president.
Ah, yes. But to a chiawero. Chiawero. But to a chiawero. Botakara bad in a musi. Bachibona wana wabo.
Wasn't it funny at the end how he was trying to defend himself, saying, I didn't plan all of this?
Yes, but I think he was very presidential, and I think he was very, his demeanor was very confident also. But he spoke to all South Africans, which is what I liked about his speech.
Right now, we're going to go to our colleague Vusi Khumalo, who is in Emadlangeni in Utrecht. Vusi, apparently there have been some unsavory events taking place where you are. Fill us in on that.
Yes, I am currently at Emadlangeni area. It's an area that is away to Newcastle by at least 80 kilometers. This area called Dorothea under Emadlangeni municipality, unfortunately, is the one that's got off to a rough start. There are so many people who were expected to cast their ballots here. We are told that more than 200 were expected to cast their ballots here. The voting station was expected to open at 7, but unfortunately it has just opened. With me is one of the protest leaders who ensured that the staff of IEC does not get to the main entrance of the school, and they were not able, these IEC staff were not able to get into the station so that they can do their work. Baba, sicela usitshela igama lakho nokuthi isiphi izathu esenza ukuthi nize nibe la nishise namathaya nabantu abakwazanga ukuvota ngesikhathi esifanele.
Ngukudman sangweni mina into esenze ukuthi sibe la imfuno la azikho into esenze ukuthi sithukuthele kakhulu ugesi ojike eduze kwethu wabuyela emumva wayoqala kwezinye indawo enye into ibridge la asinalo umfula mkhulu sithwala idumbu siyithwala siwezisa umfula makuthiwa umfula ugcwele enye into futhi amanzi nomgwaqo asinawo kule ndawo le yonke leyo nto kusukela savota u25 years sivotile asinazo lezi zinto thina ilokhuzana iaerial asinayo inetwork ayikho kule ndawo noma ngakuthiwa siyagulelwa asikwazi ukusizakala yiyo yonke into lesenza ukuthi thina sisukume sisimise istage ukuthi siphazamiseke ukuze nathi sizokwazi ukuthi sitholakala ukuthi sinakeke yiyona yonke into le esenza ukuthi siphazamise istage.
Okay, briefly, that is Goodman Sangweni, who's one of the leading protesters here, roughly saying that they were here early in the morning to ensure that the other people this group of people do not take part in a voting process here. And he's saying that they've been voting for, since 1994, it's more than 25 years. They've been casting their ballots, but nothing has come to fruition since 25 years ago. He's saying that there is no network here in this area, and the roads, as you can see behind me, it's just gravel, and also there's no electricity in the area. They've been voting for nothing. With me is also the mayor of Amajuba District Municipality, Mr. Musangubane. All these concerns, are directed to you. How are you going to answer them?
Fellow South Africans, good afternoon. Thank you very much for granting us this opportunity, Mtungwa. And we really appreciate this opportunity, especially after the complainant has stood and expressed his concerns and the concerns of the community that is here to protest. I would like to say, to the community to the public out there, to say, service delivery, it is our key mandate as the local government to bring, services to the people. And this area, it is called Emadlangeni, which is Ward 1 component of Emadlangeni. And therefore, what he says, partly true, because we probably have not been able to complete.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir. That's all the time we have for, at this current juncture. Yes, currently that's what is taking place here. The situation taking place here at Ematlangeni. Currently, there are just 40 people who have cast their ballots. Thanks. Back to you in the studio.
Well, let's quickly now go back to KZN, showing the very courage that she displayed in starting her own political party, coming through to the polling stations when she's unwell. Ms. Zanele Gamakwaza Gamsibi. Let's go through.
However, we have not taken a firm stand as in which political party that will be. However, we will be glad to see the ruling party exiting the power in these elections. They've been in the power for too long, and as the National Freedom Party, we see a high necessity for change and for a new ruling party, which we believe that it will be possibly be us or will be part of that ruling party. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Patricia Fasaki, who is at the Home Affairs offices in Pretoria. Patricia, what's the latest where you are?
Okay.
Patricia, are you able to hear us from the Tshwane National Results Operations Center? What's the latest on your side?
Well, here at Home Affairs in Pretoria, of course, a lot of South Africans still queue to get their IDs. Of course, last moment, the 11th hour, as voting fever is going through the country. As, of course, in all parts of the country, we are busy casting votes in the country's 6 elections. Here you can see the queues, of course, not so long as we have been observing them the other day. And in particular yesterday, it's much shorter, but still a lot of South Africans and of course other nationals here to come and collect their IDs. We have been speaking to some of them who say that they have been here since this morning, but it seems like it's all systems go inside. So some of the problems that continue to persist is that the system that of course continues to fail, I think, the whole process. So that is part of what is contributing to some of the delays and the long queues here. You would know that the hours have been extended to, I think, from around 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock this evening to allow South Africans to come and collect their IDs, as that is the documents that they need to cast their votes. So let's speak to some of them to find out why it is so important on this day. It's a public holiday, but you still, put in the effort to be here to collect your ID, to go and cast your vote. Why is it so important for you?
Ma'am, right now I'm so excited because I'm about to collect my ID and I'm ready to vote. That is why.
Why is it so important for you to vote? Why do you want to be part of that process? Somebody else would have said, oh, well, I don't have an ID. I might as well just enjoy this free day, this off day. Why did you put in the effort?
Well, as a young person, I would love my vote to count. I would love my vote to count as a young person. Yeah.
All right. Let's see if there's somebody else. So you, sir, you also here to collect your ID. Why is it so important for you to be part of this process? And lady here?
I'm fine, thank you.
But you're also here to collect your ID.
Yes, I'm also here to collect my ID.
A young woman, you want to be part of the country's democratic processes, to also have a say in terms of who must govern.
Yes. I've come to collect my ID so that I can vote, because I believe every cross of an individual counts.
All right. Thank you so much. There you hearing the various voices here at Home Affairs saying that they have put in the necessary efforts to come and collect their IDs, even if it's at the 11th hour. They don't want to miss the opportunity. And of course, it's no excuse. Even if you have not applied, you can come to Home Affairs or go to your nearest Home Affairs and get a temporary ID. Of course, make sure that you have the necessary funds with you. I think you need about 270 rands with you to make sure that you apply for your ID. And obviously also money that you need for your ID photos and so forth. So come prepared, bring the necessary documents, go to your nearest Home Affairs, and know that they will be open throughout the day. Since 7 o'clock this morning to about 9 o'clock this morning, you will have access to collect your ID and cast your vote. Let's give it back to studio.
Well, absolutely important there, Patricia, to remind our viewers that these processes are not necessarily for free. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Reporter Sipho Stearman. Sipho, thank you very much indeed. What are they protesting about?
Well, they're talking about their living conditions, that they don't have clean drinking water, they don't have proper toilets, they don't have proper housing.
Lopang, tell us what's happening where you are.
Early this morning, one classroom was set alight at the school. Reptiles is creeping into the classrooms like snakes.
Residents are saying that they've been failed by the Mpumalanga municipality.
This is what you see. People are angry. Let the municipal manager go.
Solani Mkiva says that they believe that the king should be released and that they are not being opportunistic.
The last 4 years, we have been engaging with government. It cannot be a post-colonial government that begins to jail a king in a context of what actually happened.
Bobby Solomons, he's the spokesperson of the Alex Shutdown Committee, the multi-billion rand Alexandra renewal project. Nothing came of that.
Community wants to know what really happened to the money.
The creative director of the label, Mansu, that of course means black is beautiful in Sesotho. What has been your experience in that regard, given some of the more established labels that you have managed to work with?
It is hard. 15 years is a long time. There's a lot of sacrifice for your family to make for you.
This is the thing. This is it this morning.
We're explorers. We always have been. Endlessly curious. Always looking for answers. For new frontiers. For new stories. Because that is who we are. From script to screen. From yelling action to taking you on a journey. Radio producers, script writers, on-air presenters, news reporters, sports analysts. We spend late nights creating captivating storylines and earlier mornings keeping you informed, educated, and entertained. For us, it's not a job, it's a calling. We do this and more because you do your part. SABC TV licenses, made possible by you.
We've seen that Brent crude oil rise about 30% this year alone.
Brent crude that's going steadily firmer speaks to a global economy that's in good shape. What we don't want to see are supply interruptions or sudden spikes.
The Bank of Athens has become GrowBank. It plans to be a bank using digital and personable relations with its customers in the agricultural and food value chain space.
We're a lucky bank in that we are small. We're already working with artificial intelligence to allow us to manage our customer data.
Agriculture is a business. If we're going to take people, millions of them out of poverty, we've got to turn agriculture into a mega sector that works for everybody.
The SABC News mobile app is your one-stop digital portal to all the